to keep track of who was going to stay and who wasn't. And then not counting, having places here for people to stay, there was a lot of dead work that was done. And that was much appreciated. But it's nice to see, people gather together and be able to put some of these things that are totally unexpected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One second. Let's record it. Okay, can you make a comment? And,
Good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I always get nervous at these meetings. We're asking for money, and all this. We're asking for money. We need it. From one end of Denali Borough to the other end. Don't leave people out every year. Look at their needs. It isn't easy asking for money. And what we're going to put the money to is hard work. Need support. I'm talking about every name on here, not just me. And thank you. I mean, we live in a borough in the beautifulest place in Alaska. Let's take care of each other. It's okay to say yes to things that you said no to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other comments? If not, we'll move on to emergency services and public safety grant application review.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Shreve. Yeah, so we'll take it by by program, and we have the emergency services and public safety grant program, we have the nonprofit grant program, and the matching grant program. So as an overview of the emergency service, first I should say, as an overview of both emergency services and nonprofit, we do have a cap, a limitation that's in the code, and we calculated what that sum is this year, and it's a pretty big number. And we also know that we're going to have a pretty big visitor season, and so as we look at the emergency services and public safety grants, I'll just give you an overview that they were all very reasonable requests. And for those new to the program, know that this is a reimbursable program. So this is money that needs to be spent to be requested. Even the emergency services part of it. So yeah, always see, I'll go ahead and just mention the 4 applications that we got. We always get a very complete and well-detailed application from the community of Cantwell, who runs the volunteer fire department there. Their request did go up a bit this year, up to 32,000. We're recommending full funding for that. Denali Emergency Services Association, that's it, the insurance for the departments, the 3 non-municipal departments, the nonprofits, and it's also radios and radio service. When I say radio service, that's servicing the radios. That's not the dispatch service, which is pulled out of that. It used to be in there. Now it's its own separate line item. And you see that's 95,000, which is down from last year's $148,000 request, which included the purchase of some radios last year. McKinley Village Volunteer Fire Department, their request is 25,900, just up slightly from last year's 23,800. And the big one, the Summer Medic Program, operated by Tri-Valley Volunteer Fire Department. is a very reasonable number. It's actually down from last year. It's 28, and that's mainly staffing and supplies to run on that level of service all summer. So the administrative recommendation for all four of those is full funding.
Thank you. We'll go into applicant comments. It looked like that there was a representative from the McKinley Fire Department on Zoom, I think, maybe. Yeah.
That might be the community center group.
Okay, yeah, the community center. All right. All right. Doesn't look like there's any other.
Yeah, and to clarify for the public also listening that the outcome of this meeting will help inform our budget, which will then go to its first reading in April. And these levels of recommended funding will be included in the budget. It'll be considered by the assembly again and approved with the approval of the budget. That's when it becomes, appropriated, basically.
All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
My question is, when I understand what's being said here, there's radios involved in this. Is that we're buying like new radios, we're changing radio companies that we're getting the radios from? And does the radios just encompass Healy, or do they go to Cantwell and Anderson? And the reason I'm kind of bringing this up is this radio deal is a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money and a big investment and a gamble. If you change companies, a lot of people are wanting to get away from Motorola because they've got you right, pushed right to the table. Anything you buy for the radio is very, very expensive.
I don't think we're at Motorola anymore, right? We got new ones.
Yeah, so that kind of relates to last year's funding and grant requests as well. We did ask for and receive, gosh, I forget the sum, but it's a fair amount of money from the State Homeland Security grant program, because the state's Alaska Land Mobile Radio System necessitated an upgrade in our radios. And so, we've undertaken a big project to replace a lot of radios throughout the borough. And that includes the city of Anderson. And that purchase order has been made, and we're working with the departments all along the way, really. But there is going to be a transition to Kenwood radios, and thankfully we found a lot of grant funding together with some borough funding to come at you're right, a big project to replace the majority of the radios in the borough.
So then now that's you covered. I understand what the rest they're going through there.
And
Thank you for the update on that.
correct me if I'm wrong, part of that 95,000 for the radios and stuff was also for the 911 call service, because that's a new thing that we've started doing separately.
Yeah, it's not included in the DESA request anymore. It used to be that dispatch agreement was within the DESA request. That's going to be a separate borough budget line item.
Yeah.
So insurance collectively pooling together to ensure the mobile equipment and buildings themselves.
Yeah, so that Denali Emergency Services Association includes all four of the volunteer fire departments. That's where that 95,000 comes from. Any other public comment on this section? All right. Then we'll move into assembly review and award. I'd just like to start saying I looked through all these today again, and they were all pretty comparable. broke it down to their calls that they had compared to the request that they were giving, and it was between about 850 and 790. Pretty close. The Cantwell one was the highest. It was like 950 or something, but they're also upping the request from previous years. So hopefully that'll level off and get back into the range. Because if I remember right, the Cantwell calls were 31, McKinley was 36. The Tri Valley was
278 or something. Yeah.
278, yeah, that's what it was. So they averaged out to about the same amount. So it was good to see that. So that was kind of what I had with that. Any other?
Although it's kind of hard to, I mean, that's a good way to compare, but you can't really say like, if they only had one call and you were the one, you'd be happy for it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, but just to be able to see that.
Yeah. No, it's good that
Okay,
it kind of indicates that the requests are all
in line with
each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other comments from the assembly on this one?
I'll just reiterate the Cantwell request, and the increase is really driven by the fact that the current Secretary Treasurer will be retiring this fiscal year. And so in order to keep Cantwell Emergency Services functioning, we need to commit to a stipend for our staff administrative position to help with the paperwork. So that's really the driver behind the increased grant request, as I understand it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a fair one. All right. If nothing else, with this one, since we don't have any representatives here at the moment, are we good to just do it all at once for this grouping?
Yep.
Okay. So I entertain a motion to approve.
So you want me to make the motion? I'd like to make a motion to approve the grant requests for the emergency services grouping of four.
Four.
Yeah.
Four.
Second.
Is there anybody opposed to awarding these grants? Hearing none, we will say that's unanimous. All right. Thank you for that. All right, now we'll move on to the nonprofit grant application review. Here.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I kind of want to provide that higher level. What kind of position are we in to help these organizations provide services within our community? And I think the answer right now is relatively healthy. We're in a relatively healthy situation to help these groups provide services within our communities. So with that, I think with this group, rather than taking them as a lump sum, of course, there's a lot more here. We'll kind of go through them individually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with that, the recommendation is for the full funding of the request from the Cantwell Community Library. And as the assembly tonight considers this and awards, I do just want to clarify for the public that it is really preliminary. It's going to inform the budget, but it's really set when the budget is approved. That's the true award. And organizations receive award notices after the budget is passed, not after tonight's meeting, okay? So maybe we should use preliminary in there for our motions for awarding.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you want to take each one like that? And
Let's do it.
okay.
We'll go through the process for each one, the 4 steps, and yep. The
So the Cantwell Library is always very reasonable requests. They have upped it a little bit from years and years. It was 4,321. And this year it has gone up, as you see, a little bit, but it's a modest request for wages, books, supplies, and subscriptions for that library.
Do we have anybody on for the Cantwell Library? Speak to it.
Let's see.
Okay. Hearing none, any public comments?
I just like to say, because it's the library, we should always support our libraries, and I know that especially in Campbell and Anderson, too, the libraries do become kind of a hub for the community, so just keep that in mind.
All right. There's no other, yep, go ahead.
I will speak on the libraries, and as pointed out, Cantwell and Anderson, it is not only that. It's from, private people running that. The school is pretty low enrollment. It's, outside help for the children that are going to school, and it is a gathering spot, and it's a place to go get a book to read. In both places, it's very important.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, it serves the broader community. So,
Yes.
Cindy Green. I have been selected to be the new library director for the Tri-Valley Community Library. But thank you. Being a retired Bush teacher, any library is the hub of the community. And they're vitally important to keep resourced, open, utilities on, so the books stay safe. And to provide places for our community members of whatever community to go to for resources. A lot of people don't have Wi-Fi at their homes, and the library can be that resource. In my new position, I do want to reach out to the librarians in Anderson and Campbell and to do some reaching out and working with them as well, and see if we can't help them find some more grants. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, if not, we'll move on to assembly comment or review and award. Any comments? It looked all reasonable to me when I was looking it over, and nothing big stood out. Yeah.
Yep, yeah, I agree. Library is important. And I think the full funding is good.
All right.
So with no comments, I'd like to make a motion to preliminarily approve the full grant request for the Cantwell Community Library.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any objection to preliminary awarding this grant? Hearing none, call that unanimous. All right, we'll move on to the Denali Chamber of Commerce. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. The Denali Chamber is requesting 20,000. The maximum you can request is 25. They enumerate expenses such as utilities, community events, training and professional development, program development, and wages as well. And the administrative recommendation is full funding.
All right. Is Vanessa on the line? Or a representative from the Denali Chamber? No? All right. Is there any public comment for this specific grant right here? No? Hearing none.
I got a question for, so first of all, the chamber and the visitor center are sort of linked in a way. And
They
you know,
use one employee as a.
Right.
To connect.
right. And you know, I see the recommendation is for the funding this and not the visitor center
We'll
thing.
talk about the visitor center when we get there, yeah.
Okay. But I mean, that, because to me, they're sort of linked in a way, in my mind.
Linked in a way in your mind, and that's fair, because you see the same person at the head of both.
Right, right.
Yeah, they do have different missions and they are
Mhm.
organized as different entities,
Right,
especially, you know, in their mission and the IRSI. While the chamber, you know, is more of a membership organization, while the Denali Visitor Center is a destination marketing organization.
right.
They're quite different, actually.
Because, you know, because when I was looking at the Denali Visitor Center one, and as far as what's the detailed narrative, it almost seems as if this funds is more of a marketing, you know, like a more of a generalized thing for marketing and promoting the borough as a whole, as opposed to this, which I guess has just got these specific
Yeah.
bits.
To promote local businesses
Yeah.
really is the mission of a chamber, right?
Right, right.
And so, yeah, let's stay on the chamber, and then when we get to the visitor center, we'll have
Okay.
some things to talk about.
So, yeah, and some of the big differences I've seen have been able to use some of the programs they've had on starting a business and how to grow your business through. They got some funding through the state to be able to make that free for people that want to learn a little bit more about business, and it's been a helpful tool to have and is out there for anybody. As they just got to contact Vanessa and they can get it. So yeah, I didn't see anything that stood out with this one just because of the work that has been done and being able to have programs to develop business in the area.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I'd agree that those are some of the community benefits provided by this membership organization,
Yeah.
right? Or those kind of business development programs that are open to everybody and other community events that are open to everybody.
Yeah. All right.
I have a comment on that.
Yeah.
The way I understand it, it's kind of what you're talking about. The Chamber of Commerce is, these are businesses that are running this, and there can be some training and stuff, but there's a lot of politics goes on there. Business can be swayed one way or the other. And a lot of these people, they're making quite a bit of money. And to me, it's, you know, Bernie should, I realize they bring business into Healy too. We got to look at both sides. And I don't want to get one-sided here, but I think I realize they dropped 5,000, but the fair is fair.
Any other assembly comments on this one? If not, I look for a motion.
Oh. I'd like to make a motion to preliminarily approve the full 20,000 grant request for the Denali Chamber of Commerce.
Second.
Right, it has been moved and seconded. Is there anybody opposed to preliminary awarding this grant? Hearing none, call it unanimous. All right, and we'll move on to Denali Preschool and Learning Center. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Denali Preschool and Learning Center requested 25,000, the max this year. Last year, they were funded to the level of 17.5. And we have heard statewide how important it is to have preschool and early education within your community. We've heard a lot of the challenges in other communities about providing those services. And we received a request for that includes $16,000 in utility relief. And that is something that a lot of our grant program does, as you'll see as we go through it. So there's a lot of we pay a lot of utility bills in this borough of the nonprofits providing services to the community. So so that's the majority of the request. It's $5,000 for personnel, and
7,000
and others for tuition relief. We've heard throughout the state how communities are challenged to provide early learning opportunities at reasonable price. So administration recommendation is full funding for DPLC.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Do we have a representative online or in?
I think we
Thomas
do.
right there. All right.
You know, as Clay said, the issue of childcare is statewide. It's all across the country. The fact that DPLC stayed open through COVID is nothing short of a miracle. Some of us know. And it wasn't through one person's effort. It was a lot of help from the borough, a lot of work by our voluntary board, a lot of flexibility from our parents, with staffing shortages, which forced us to reduce our hours. Lots of turnover in staff and leadership. We've also seen a huge change in inflation. And so our costs are going up excessively. And we have a huge need to raise all of our wages right now to retain staff and to entice staff to come so that we can continue to provide not just childcare, but quality childcare and also curriculum-based programming for some of our students who are of age. So we're working hard not just to stay open, but to continue to provide exceptional care and to improve our programs as much as we can. The small amount we put in there for tuition subsidy will help offset a little bit as we restructure our program. We're trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can, and that requires us to tighten up some of our policies and do some increases in tuition, which we're hoping that a little bit of a tuition relief will help with that. And we're going to continue to look for more grants and more opportunities to keep things affordable, but also to provide the best service we can. And we thank you for all that you guys have done in the past to support DPLC.
Thank you.
Can you can you tell me what the amount is? Like this as opposed to how much you get from grants and how much you get from tuition? Just in
Well, I can
general numbers?
Tuition does not cover our salaries.
Right.
We have to raise wages.
Right.
So I will tell you that. Part of it is tying up some of our tuition policies needs to happen, but what exactly are you
I
trying?
mean, would you say like 80% of it is covered by tuition and
Of the wages?
of your total costs
Of the total
or
cost?
of your budget?
Of your
total
budget, yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's no excess. in
Right,
our
ours
wages.
just the.
Right,
Or sorry, there's no
No.
excess from our tuition to cover anything else.
It's
Yeah.
not
right.
overhead,
Yes.
insurances, anything else.
And that's all,
Yeah,
okay,
and we
And-
do that through a variety of different avenues. Fundraising and grant writing.
okay,
So fundraising through the school lunch program, fundraising through things like, well, it used to be Amazon Smile, like small amounts like that. But, writing, little grants to help offset
Mhm.
things here or there.
Mhm.
This is a big, so this grant is what kept DPLC from going under years ago and has been able to help keep DPLC stores open for a long time.
good.
So grants are the majority of
Grants
what,
are a good portion of how we're able to improve our services. I will say the COVID money went far away for keeping us open because our enrollment was so low. We're still actually trying to rebound enrollment wise from COVID. That our enrollment was not, I think we're just reaching the point where we're able to, that our enrollment similar to what it was pre-COVID. And we're limited because of the number of kids we can take who are younger, because we have ratios and licensing that we have to follow. So the new building is part of that. We need more kids to get more money.
Okay.
What is the enrollment?
It ranges, we have, at once, we can't have more than 30 children right now. But we usually see anywhere from 6 to 20. Depending on the, in the summer, yeah, depending. Our preschool programs vary dramatically from year to year, depending on the size of the age group that year, but COVID took a huge hit. So our preschool numbers have been really low, which used to be a pretty big driver economically for us. And that's quite a bit.
How many in preschool?
Right. That would be 7 or 8. Something I'm looking out for next year.
And how many can you handle now?
We could only handle 10 right now. Due to
So you're
vacancies.
max.
We're a few shy of max. We're close.
So you have 7 at the moment.
About, yeah.
Okay.
And that does range a little because we offer preschool 2 to 5 day. So some of those students are only in 2 days, some of those students are in 5 days.
All right, thank you. Any other public comment?
I'm Kesslyn Tench. I'm here representing the Tri-Valley Subdivision HOA. And as you may know, the DPLC is within the HOA. And since they use this grant to provide services, they can't ask for money to help with the roads that lead to the preschool. And they have an average of 35 cars going on the HOA roads, which puts a lot of traffic in that one section of road. And so I'd like you to keep that in mind when you're looking at some of the other grants that you'll be looking at tonight.
All right. Any other public comment for this one? All right, seeing none, any assembly comments?
I think that just, as we've had these discussions about the schools and keeping our schools open, the importance of having that resources in the borough and attracting new residents and being a welcoming and hopefully vibrant and growing community. I think that also extends into this preschool. It's also very important in that same vein. And so I'd be all for it.
And being able to see the work that they've done through COVID to be able to get that expansion, because that was the thing before COVID was the expansion, because they couldn't do anymore. And so it's been good to see. And
I agree with it too. It's we need to get the population back into our community, and the best way to do it is with these young families. I mean, this is the future of all these cities here. So I'm in favor of whatever we can do to support these folks.
Jeff?
I agree. I think this is one of the most important grant submissions we have. Not that the others don't matter, but our future is these young kids and getting them in a good school environment and a learning center and helps their development along the line and sets them up for the future. And I think this is one of the most important things we got to do.
Yeah, I agree. I concur with all of that.
All right.
Just mentioned that the Nenana Head Start closed during COVID, so DPLC is the only licensed childcare center. Period. In the area. So if there's any organization that offers a subsidy, DPLC is it. National Park Service does offer subsidy. The only place that any National Park Service employee could get childcare to have it subsidized is at DPLC. So we have families coming from Cantwell, drop their kids off back to the parks. They drive over 100 miles to get childcare. So really.
All right. Well, thank you. So
All right. I'd like to make a motion to preliminary approve the 25,000 grant request for the Denali Preschool and Learning Center.
Has it been seconded? And I will.
All right, it is been moved by Mr. Alexander and has been seconded. Is there any opposition to preliminary awarding this grant? Hearing none, I'll say it's unanimous. Thank you. All right, Denali Visitor Center, Mayor.
Yeah, so we've been in communication with their executive director is Vanessa Jusek, and you know, a couple years ago, we'd been working on this for a while, the idea that the Denali Visitor Center as a destination marketing organization could possibly be funded in a different way outside of our nonprofit grant program, but really is sharing some of our economic development responsibility. And so, yeah, so this is the year we're gonna come at it that way, is going to be the administrative recommendation to not fund it through this grant program. But together we've drafted a service agreement, and the assembly will have that at your next meeting. It'll be under other business. It'll be for your review, for your knowledge and approval. But the ultimate approval is in the budget, right? And it'll be a line item in the budget.
Okay, so that answers my, I tried to read this earlier.
This 25 number is what we're looking at right now.
Okay.
All right, since Vanessa's probably not on still, we'll go past that one. Thank you, Mayor, for that. Any public comment on this one? Yes.
I can say from my experience, we send a lot of our visitors that call through the information line at the National Park Service to Discover Denali. Having worked in other areas where there's national parks, this is not an uncommon setup. I worked in Mont Rainier, and there's a Explore Rainier similar website that it reminds me a lot of. And so using it as a marketing tool seems to be a positive move, but just know it does get used pretty regularly. And it's been very nice as a resource because there's only so much external business information that we can provide in an efficient manner, while also trying to collect fees and do the programming that we have to do. So having that as a resource, in addition to like the Lions Club and stuff, is always been really helpful as a person who deals with visitors enforcement.
How confident are you that the service agreement will push through? There's note says the borough hopes. And there's somewhere it says hopes is not a plan, and somewhere in your office it says that. Because of how important the destination marketing, I mean, the money's funded by, most of grant money is funded, how much of it is funded by tourists, by the taxes,
Yeah.
like 80%, 90%? How much of the grant money is funded by tourism?
Bed tax revenue does make up the lion's share of our revenue stream, for sure, always have. And so, the assembly will make the decision on all funding matters. They hold the purse strings, and whether that is a nonprofit grant or a service agreement, we have time through the budget process ahead. We expect to pass the budget probably in June. And we have time to have those conversations and iron out, the way we want to go forward. But right now, what we have in place, it's ready.
Both can be supported, a grant and service agreement, like both couldn't be funded by two separate.
I think the service agreement would be a better tool than the grant, because this will open up more opportunities for other nonprofits to be able to get funding. So pulling this one out, putting it into a different category gives us a better option to fund more potentially.
As long as the service agreement goes through, I'm easier. I just, how important marketing is to push people here is, it can't be said enough about other, we were being beat out, and then they created, Discover Denali created that amazing brochure magazine that is overwhelmingly like caught up quickly. I just don't want us to go back.
Yeah, I think I mean, not speaking for the entire assembly, but I think that we're very receptive to, you know, this question.
Yeah, it's,
It's important, and you know, like schools, attracting business is all part of keeping a vibrant.
yeah.
So pretty good.
Any other comments on this one? Hearing none, we'll move into assembly review and award. Any comments from the assembly?
None for me.
All right. Jared's here. Does he
Yeah, I
get
am.
to take over?
Yes, sorry, I'm late, everybody.
Well, I'll
Thank you
finish
much,
wrapping
Callan,
this.
for running the meeting. And if you don't mind continuing in that role, it'd be much appreciated. Keep things
Okay.
flowing.
Yeah, I can do that. And you see where we're at?
No, I came in,
So right now, we are in the nonprofit grant application review and looking at the Denali Visitor Center grant.
okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So I did have some comments. I thank you for that comment because marketing is probably the most important thing we can do to keep our cash flow running through. So I can't speak for the assembly as a whole, but for sure I will definitely vote yes on making that agreement happen. I just do see it as a better tool to be able to free up money in the nonprofit and then also be able to really start building up our marketing with the Discover Denali as a tool for us to not have to do it all ourselves. So thank you for that. I do appreciate that. But yeah, overnight accommodations is our lion's share of getting it in. So I'm glad that we are moving to that model of working with Discover Denali. And yeah.
Okay, so I'd like make a motion to not fund, preliminarily not fund the Denali Visitor Center.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there anybody opposed to not funding this grant? Hearing none. That's unanimous. We will not preliminary not fund that grant. All right. So now we'll move on to the Healy Hockey Association. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Healy Hockey is a long time participant in this program, and we've paid a lot of utility bills over there over the years, and they provided a lot of great recreational opportunities for borough youth, and also additional community events as well. So yeah, their request this year is a little higher. It does go up to the maximum. It does go up to 25,000. They've never been funded to that level before. And utility expenses are, you know, half of that. Facility maintenance is another 5,000. They do need repairs for that Zamboni, and they have a goal of replacing a door as well. So, so the administrative recommendation is for full funding for this request.
All right. And thank you, Mayor. And do we have a representative from Healy Hockey Association to speak to this one? Not seeing any. We'll move on to public comment. Any public comment for the Healy Hockey Association grant? Yeah.
In favor as a parent of a hockey player. I can't tell you how much hockey means to my oldest, and it's a part of his life, and the rink becomes a source of community engagement and a centerpiece in the wintertime for many families. During COVID, I know that a lot of us met there for outdoor play, which was one of the few opportunities we could have to socialize with our kids, was at the hockey rink skating. And even when my twins were too small, it was nice to just be outside and feel comfortable and safe in a place. while they're able to recreate socially. I understand that the Zamboni issue, that they spent a lot of money, and even with the help from East Valley and their, their graciousness in assisting with that they took a big hit, having to afford that. And it's just anything we can do to support that kind of recreation and community development opportunity. I would support.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Yes.
Um, I don't know if we're in assembly comments or not yet. Are we still in public?
No, we're good.
Okay. I'm fully in support of this. I think it's real important. It goes back to our youth and bringing kids up right and competition and being involved in sports makes better people. I feel anyway, education, and that goes right into it. I thought we were just discussing there was a project potentially coming on board to put in a new community area skating rink. Is that still online or not?
It is in the progress. We're working. Yeah, there's a few groups working on it to get it going, but it's a little bit down the road.
Right on. Cool. I fully support this.
Yeah, and it'll be in our next grant.
In the Lions Club.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Any other public comment? If not, we'll move to more assembly comments and review.
Yeah, I'm in support of this. I know I live here in Anderson, but I associate with a lot of the Healy folks and a lot of the parents that have kids. And man, I can't have a conversation without them talking about their kid and where they're going to California. And they seem really excited. It really seems like a big piece of the community. So, and they're asking for 25, and that barely covers the utilities and maintenance. So I'm all for this.
All right.
I think that it could also it's besides being a service to the people that use it, can be a nice thinking in terms of marketing and maybe increasing our winter time visitation. It's a nice asset for people coming and having skating available.
Yeah.
Especially with like walking distance of
Yeah.
Yeah, and the nice thing about this ring too is it hits all ages because they have the adult teams. When I graduated high school, we had our reception down there in the hockey rink, and just a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, it's you can go out pretty much anytime and go flip on the lights and go skating, and it's a nice outlet to have in the dead of winter to be able to go and blow off some steam outside and get some good fresh air and go do some stuff. We take our kids over there all the time, summer and winter. So it's a nice facility to have to be able to use. All right. That being said, I entertain a motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to preliminarily approve grant request of $25,000 for the Healy Hockey Association.
I'll second it.
All right, it has been moved by Mr. Alexander and has been seconded. Is there anybody opposed to preliminary awarding this grant? Hearing none, we'll call that unanimous. And we will move on to the next one, Healy Valley Lions Club. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. So the Healy Valley Lions Club is kind of newer to the nonprofit grant program. This year, they are working through their first year of that reimbursable grant program, and their request for this coming year is for the max 25,000, and it entails utility expenses, waste disposal, and dumpsters for the dumpsters and cleaning supplies at the Outer Lake Park, which is operated by the Healy Valley Lions Club, and $12,000 for maintenance, upkeep, gravel work, brush trimming, removal, and gravel fill-in of the unused bathroom facility. And then $10,000 for architectural planning for building design as an essential first step in fundraising as a part of the community partnership working towards planning, building, and operating a rec center. So that component of asking for borough funds to help design that rec center is a component of this Lions Club grant request. And the administrative recommendation is full funding.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Is there someone that would like to speak on the Lions Club?
For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Vanessa Stone. I'm the secretary of the Healy Valley Lions Club. So they asked me to come here to this meeting. So the majority of our grant request is for Otto Lake Park, which is our outdoor recreation, and it's one of the main Healy outdoor recreations that's available. And we do have a lot of events and weddings that happen. So we've been looking at, we had applied for some other grants as well last year that they actually closed funding pretty quick because it was so popular in the state to make the Otto Lake recreation area more accessible and clean it up. And one of the things the mayor had mentioned was the power pole. We want to put power out to the pavilion there. So that's all for the Otto Lake outdoor recreation. One of the projects the Healy Valley Lions has been working on is a partnership with two of the other nonprofit groups in the borough to try to get the recreation center, an indoor recreation center that would be open during the winter. And we're working with both the Tri-Valley Community Library and also the new Spruce Network, which is community development and like a giving circle kind of in the community. And the Lions Club has agreed to be to focus on the structural design of the actual building, whereas the other groups will kind of focus on the operation and fundraising. So to that, we've talked with and got a quote from an architect who has already started working with us because it's a person who has roots here in Healy and some family here. And so they have a kind of a passion for it. And they're going to put together a preliminary plan, an architectural plan, and 3D rendering so we can share with people to get more funding and more grants coming. So it's kind of the first step. It's not like our big project yet, but it's the first step to get that project rolling. So that's what our grant request is for, both Otto Lake in outdoor recreation and then the potential indoor recreation that we're working with the rest of the community.
All right, thank you. Any public comment on this grant? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to assembly review and award. Comments from the assembly?
No, I think it's a worthy project and we should fund it.
Yeah, just being able to use the Otto Lake Lions Club area has been nice. Going to the different events up there. They've been doing 4th of July, the Blueberry Festival, and then just being able to get into Otto Lake and having a nice clean area to be able to take the kids up there and go and hang out in the summer, and having that pavilion right there has been nice. So being able to keep it up and get some power to it will make that even a better opportunity to use as community event areas. And then, yeah, the rec center is going to be a nice addition as it keeps being worked on.
Yeah, I think this is a good first step to getting that rec center started, and having the community involvement and community pushing this forward. I think is a really good thing. And it's got to have a pool.
Oh yeah, there's a pool.
All right.
We have it broken down into phases, which will be part of the architectural plan. He's been working with us on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that would be a wonderful thing, for the community, and also increasing winter tourism and all that as well.
All right. Any other comments?
In that case, I'd like to make a motion to preliminarily approve the $25,000 grant request for the Healy Valley Lions Club.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Alexander and has been seconded. Anybody opposed to preliminary awarding this grant? Hearing none, that'll be unanimous. All right, now we'll move on to Holy Mary of Guadalupe Catholic Church. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. This one was a difficult one, and you know, it's possible that we could talk about it again or revisit it when we talk about the Tri-Valley subdivision HOA, because there's a correlation, right? But on our list right now, it comes up next. And yeah, it's their first time applying, and it is for road maintenance. And that's, you know, road maintenance is, we know that it's kind of a big can of worms, right? That has grown a bit over time. And one way that we've kind of gotten our arms around it a little bit is putting some caps on it. But all at the same time, we've also been funding it in some areas with appropriate nonprofit organizations making those requests. And it just didn't fit the mission, the way the review came out, that it's not the mission of the organization. And is it a fit there to fund road maintenance through the Catholic Church? You can make a point that you've got to get to church, right? And that you can make a point that maybe we should be. But at this time and at this stage, administrative recommendation has been not to fund this request, but to continue the discussion about road maintenance and different ways to come at it other than this way.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Do I have a representative for this grant? All right.
It's me again. I'm on the parish council at the Catholic Church, and we were approached by the HOA because they were kind of talking to some of the nonprofits that do subdivision roads. And so that's where this came about, was how we can maintain our roads. And so the parish talked at our meeting, and we reached out to the diocese because we're underneath the Fairbanks Diocese, and they saw no issue with us asking since. I would say that it does fall within our mission of our church to some extent, because we have a very large population of tourists that do come to our church in the summertime. I would say 75% of the congregation in the summertime definitely is visitors who are using that road, and they come from the park and they come into our subdivision to use the road. So the particular specific part of the road that we were looking at is that intersection that's right outside the church, the Graphite Lane and Carbon Way intersection, because there is a culvert that has failed there or is not there at all. And that would help that particular intersection. It's right there at the entrance to the church. And then another section that have been an issue in the winter time, and we do have winter parishioners who come out from Stampede and other places in the world, and some parishioners from Anderson who also come, is if we could get something that would help with the drifting right there at the entrance as well, because we're right next to the power line. So that's the history of that request and why we'd like that. And we do think it does kind of fall within the mission, because the mission is to provide church and spread the gospel or whatever, but that is to those tourists who are coming to the community.
Thank you. Any public comment?
Who would be doing the work?
We would probably work with the HOA and probably hire Evans, because that's the main person here who does the construction, but we would look into that to find out more details if that was approved.
It's a tough one because it's kind of a backdoor way for the HOA getting more money.
Well, I wouldn't give it directly to the HOA, but because they own the roads, it's public roads owned by the HOA. We just basically be getting permission from them to do it, but we'd be working with Evans in the street, most likely.
So the church would be directly working with them if that's who gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be the church directly.
But it's in the-
Yeah, more permission from the HOA because they own the.
I just didn't want to go into the vacuum.
Yes, no, I agree. I agree.
I would be very upset. Thank you.
Yes.
So, as a representative of the HOA, there are 3 churches and a nonprofit that share the roads in the HOA. So for them to be able to maintain some of the roads that are directly going to their establishments, that would be helpful in being able to maintain the rest of the roads in the HOA and be able, we have some major problems that we need to deal with, and so this would be very helpful.
Thank you.
On the deal for CPLC and the HOA, I asked, kind of put our brains together, you know, how this funding makes sense, meet all the code and the criteria. I asked DPLC too, is there any way with the 8,000 you can request underneath your entity? And it just didn't make sense this time, but I did reach out to DPLC because that section of road does get dangerous during breakup season. And you have emergency vehicles, that's the quickest, fastest route you should go to enter into the subdivision and rescue, you know, God forbid, something. So they couldn't request that funding, but if it was underneath there, I'm kind of curious if they did. You know, their mission, it's kind of a given that accessibility to the facility is not, you know, it's clearly stated in the mission statement because it's just people believe that's an automatic thing that comes with running a business, that public road is going to be maintained and kept well. So it's one way we try to go about it is to ask any kind of nonprofit that could receive grant funding to a little bit sections of roads done to improve the traffic that they increase. By the meeting space that the Catholic Church has, and it's not just people who attend there, there's AA meetings multiple nights a week. There's a meeting space there that bring in all sorts of community members, not just parishioners, in all the churches.
And I will follow up really quick too. On the parish council board, we do have people who do know about road work and maintaining and construction. We have Peggy Mankey, so we have that family, and then Ed Borisek, who also works in the construction area. So we would definitely be working on it through the church ourselves and working directly with getting that if we were grateful.
Yep.
I have a comment on this. I see 2 sides to this. I have a lot of faith. The church doing this because there's a lot of expertise on the congregation. But that other side of me, my other nemesis is, if we start bringing another 8, 8, and 8, there's a cap put on this, and there's other people trying to get in that 8,000. These folks have a way of raising more money. And I think they're gonna have to start looking what they have to work with and doing that. Start pushing all this outside deals, because this could be like a cancer, you know, and get money. And if you have the expertise like they have, I think that would be for. If we have every church and every nonprofit on that road starting asking for this, the borough's building. We have an existing road here. It's been there since the subdivision. And now it's like, oh, hell, road loose and it's falling apart. You know, and I've watched a lot of damage been done to that road since they've taken over. When you watch the fiber optics go in the sulfide way. They stripped that road right down to the boulders. We're seeing the foundation dirt in it. And windrow on each side, whereas MTA could dig right out of that, make all their pads and stuff for all their buried pole boxes. A lot of material is gone. And that was 20 years. You know, when Rick Stickle and them were grading that, mine sent people over that, they babysit. This road is not being babysitted. It's being treated. You know. And the standards that they're wanting to run at, if they want to drive fast and stuff, you watch people going into the kids stop now, it's got its mooning, they're fast. They get a lot of traffic and a lot of harsh. You have four-wheelers out there, as soon as that road gets graded, they spin the Brodies. First Brody is put in there, that sets the water. That's really cost money, and then. Like, you know, talking to Evans, you know, like graders are roughly 200 an hour. Just that one side, they have 20 hours, that. You know, shaping that road, and then later on in the year, it just gets cut right down, so. I think some more management needs to be done. And they're gonna have to work with it. But I'm just looking at this grant, this any other thing is, you know, you're held down to 8,000, I realize that. I think the fair is fair. And if the borough wants to cherry pick them one at a time, but I do. And I'm not saying no, but I'm saying seeing something that can really creep up, get out of control. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't follow it, kind of, so, one thing I didn't mention too, this is for the church anyway. It's more of a one-time act, one-time money for that specific culvert. What's right in front of the church. Okay. So I agree with, George to some extent. Perhaps if this was like a recurring thing we'd be asking for, but it is a one-time thing. In front of the church. I know that the HOA has sat down and kind of talked about the problem areas to be immediately addressed. And I believe that they're asked for a community meeting. One of the applying ongoing meetings that need to happen every year. Well, this one was just kind of a one-time thing. Because I agree that could definitely, it's a weird way to go about it. Since there's a one-time thing. And at this point, since there is nothing right now, it is a major intersection right there as well. We have a lot of visitors who come here and aren't used to the dirt road. That intersection that has a huge lake that forms, goes out into the section. A hazard that's right there at the church.
I do have one more. What she's saying is all true, and if you looked out how those subdivisions laid out, all the water above it, all the way from the school. Eventually, if it's on that side, runs all the way down. That's where the water is gonna leave the subdivision. And then it has to work down through the railroad, access road, and then on to the river. And there is a lot of damage there into the culvert. And until the money runs out, we fix that intersection. But and it's a one-time deal. It's going to be a big win of saving that whole side of the suburb. You know, because that's ongoing damage. So I guess what I'm saying, I would vote yes for that for many reasons. You know, but I'm not in favor of having you guys have to answer it. These 8,000 requests, not really.
I also would point out that, like Keston said, there are only 4 nonprofits. I think you're gonna get 4 probably ones.
Thank you. Comment? All right. And no more public comments, we'll move it over to assembly review and award. Any assembly comments?
I certainly appreciate everybody's input on this and thoughts. And but it seems that if there's an award, it should be with the HOA association, who is in charge of the road, owns the road, rather than the individual nonprofits involved. And it just doesn't quite seem appropriate to me, so I would vote to not.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with that. With what Mr. Alexander just said.
Jeff?
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Alexander just said. If it's the HOA's road and they're asking for a grant to do maintenance and improvement, you can't have, I don't think it's appropriate to have 4 other people asking to improve the same road. It's just a road maintenance becomes a real slippery slope. But grants,
Yeah,
matching grants are a whole different subject. I think if the HOA is looking for road improvement grant, then that's how it should go.
All right. Any other thoughts or comments from the assembly? I'm kind of along the same line. I don't know where you were at with talking with the HOA on this, and them bringing it as a line item for the grant applications, but I think that might be a way to do it. So I think that maybe talking about it a little bit more when we get to the subdivision HOA might be an appropriate place to do that when we get there. So if there's no other comments. Yeah.
Talon?
Yes.
Yeah, I would just agree with that. Again, kind of feel a little out of it, coming in late here, but just to kind of have a holistic just discussion about the road maintenance needs there, and a lot of the stuff just coming up first time, but I think that'd be worthwhile. If we need to come back and revisit something, we certainly can, but so look forward to that conversation when it comes up.
Thank you. Any other comments from the assembly? If not, I'd like to,
I'll make a motion to deny the $8,000 grant request from the Holy Mary of Guadalupe Catholic Church for preliminarily deny.
second,
right, it has been moved by Mr. Alexander and seconded to not approve, preliminary approve and award the grant. Holy Mary Guadalupe Catholic Church. And is there anybody opposed to not approving? Hearing none, well, unanimous. All right, we move on to the Kobe Farm Community. Mayor?
The farm community, yes. They put in for the $8,000. That the maximum the cap for road maintenance project. That is part of the mission. Bring agricultural market and
Certain portion of this is also repairs as a result of the fire. I see on their funding part.
Yeah, the bridges and stuff.
well, and that they do say that the mastication, the cutting of the brush on the edges that happened was very helpful. But they also said that so, and yeah, whether, the other, the public assistance program will be supporting the roads to the original condition is a different question as to whether we should, that's in their court right now, but so dump truck rental and equipment needs, maintenance of ditching, crowning the road. But I'm gonna say recommendation is full fund.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Do we have comments from the applicant?
Dorothy DeBlau and I represent Kobe Farm community. Thank you for really recommending the show attending. The construction season is coming up and this will help us with the equipment in line and ready to go. You never know what that construction season is going to be live, rain. So just want to thank you for that. All this will come, the equipment rental and the maintenance will, everything got $8,000.
On the block. Did I hear you say, Mr. Mayor? Trying to get some money from some things. It's that, we don't know. It's gonna-
Still working on that one.
We're working on it. Ask them to, what, something done just to bring some of you folks back up to where they were, it's gonna be fire. Rochester, Colby and Battle Axe. Yeah. And we're really thankful for everything everybody did out there to fight these fires and our volunteer departments and everybody that came in and one good thing that came out of it is they did masticate the size of the road. You know, not just write it off, but get it down there good. And now that we got that, is really, you know, we need to really keep after it and get the roots out of there because it'll grow back up so fast. You know, that's part of what we want to do. But, you know, we're going to need some more money, you know, to do that. But thank you.
I wonder if you could, I have a question. Sorry to interrupt. I was wondering if you could talk more about the public use of the road?
Well, Colby Road, there's, I don't know how many square miles back there of land, and a lot of it's in private hands. And the first part of Colby Road, you know, it accesses all that. We're at 1 mile Colby Road. Most people live back off of Rochester at 1 mile Colby Road. That's the main road to the ag part. There's Colby Ag, which we are. There's Florida subdivision, which is along Rochester. The borough has several lots there. I want to bring up, you know, the borough has a lot of road, owns a lot of land along Colby and Rochester. So it's in our borough's best interest to keep these roads up.
Yeah, you have the youth camp back there too.
Yeah, there's a youth camp at the end of the
Oh,
road. too.
okay.
Yeah,
Of course, it's all burned off now. That kind of brings land value down, I suppose. Yeah, and hunting season, look, you've been by the Colby pull out there. I've counted up to 15 rigs out there. They're all using our road. And we're stuck with what's left. And I've seen, you know, like spring bear hunters, we stay off the road, you know, when it's breakup and when the road's, you know, sunk down. They'll drive their truck and pull their rig down there and leave ruts in the road and water falls right down the road where it used to run off. So, you know, I don't like being, you know, having to do the road maintenance, but we don't, you know, I mean, we all work on it. We have like 8 or 10 members who live on Colby Road.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Mayor.
I'll just mention during the fire season, you know, a number of firefighters had actually been back there previously. And we did hear, you know, a number of times comments in terms of the efforts that have gone into bringing that road up out of a trench that were very valuable during this last fire season.
And along with that, Mayor, that is the main road for the emergency vehicles to go through. And they commented how it's quicker on the road, that you don't have to really gear down and don't go fall in a hole and not come out. That, you know, it just made a big difference.
Yes.
I have some comments. On Kobe Road, let's just go Kobe Road started out where pretty well everybody out there put the road in themselves. There was no state funding or any other funding. That's grassroots. Kobe Road accesses the whole landmass there. It ties in Rochester Road, it go down another, let's see, about maybe 1.8 miles. That might be a little farther, but then it hits Battle Axe, and those are the two roads. When that fire was going full blast, that was their only access in there. So Kobe Road takes you off the parks and goes back, and then you go in go over a 10th mile and you pick up Rochester, and that's heading north. And you go down, you know, about a mile and a half or a little better, and then you pick up Battle Axe, and that's going north, and that's where they can work their way. Eventually they're going across the river to get to the river. The tractors and stuff, the firefighting equipment went there, you know, to get access. All the heavy equipment was hauled off of that road. And definitely, you know, going to those meetings and talking to the incident commanders, you know, they're there about a 10-hour or 10-day stretch, and you get a new one. The ones that have been up here before definitely commented. They said the last time in this fire, they were getting, you know, going through water, about getting stuck. It was a nightmare to get in there, where they were running fully loaded trucks, water trucks, and everything else. Second point on this, the borough owns from Rochester, going down Rochester, and there, then clear to this section corner. There's a TVA power line on that same side. The borough property's on the northern side of the road. So that property's got power and a road, you know, and as the road gets better, it's got more road. Then on this mastication, what happened? They got a fire, so they're trying to build fire rigs. So they brought hydraxes in there, and they went down each side of the road, and they tried to widen that road, gambling that would hold a fire. So they did, you know, Rochester, they did Battle Axe, they did Kobe, you know, because this fire was whipping back and forth, and you know, as you're going to these meetings. I live in Anderson, so you're catching them. And, you know, you got everybody living in Anderson, you know, in that fire. So you had plenty of people, you know, you could get feedback from. So anyway, they masticated that. So now we have all this root mass sitting there. And it gives the chance now, right where Kobe Road is, you can come along, take a tractor, strip that root mass out. Use that to ditch the road out further and bring that dirt to the center and get a better crown. Because there is not much money to work with. And that's right now, if you want to go down to Nenana and that road going in there, that's what they're doing. You know, they're grabbing material, anything they can, and then trying to fill in the low spots, and then they're going to cap it with 10 inches of material. That's the tune of $5 million for 12 miles of road. That's like about $416,000 a mile. And so now getting back to this, getting it done and, you know, spending this little bit of grant money, there is no guarantee anything else is coming. You know, it's we don't know. And you've got your fingers crossed, but don't know. And this year is pretty important because all this stuff is now the road is turned back into a river again. and need to fix what happened after the fire, you know, and even if we patch it, and that's basically what's happening with this borough money. Is patching it and eventually, you know, getting those sections a little bit better. So the other thing is, roads, let's just talk about roads in general. Without the road, you can't get to your property, you can't get to your house, you can't get to work. You can't go to any of these nonprofits. The EMT service, the ambulance, the fire engines, they all depend on a road. That is your foundation, number one thing. Without it, everything else is nada. And if you go back in the history of Alaska, a road was a river in the winter running dogs on it. The trail was, if it was, you know, passable without sinking out of sight, walking on it, that's how people, ancestral and the people in the gold rush got around. Without a road, you have not much. So I place far more value on a road than a lot of these other things, because without the road, you don't have any of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Yeah, I have one more thing. This is, all these grants are in 99% of them, we're not 99, but most of the grants are in the Healy area, from Panguinea, McKinley Village. There's a few grants in Cantwell. This and one other grant, it's the only thing north of Panguinea. And I think the northern section should get a fair shake as along with the southern outliers. We are the two outliers. And I feel very strongly about that.
Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll go to assembly review and award. Any comments for this? For the Kobe Farm?
The road itself is owned by the individual landowners along that.
Public right of way.
It's public right of way. So is there some portion of it that the borough owns, that section that we own property along the edge?
We own land on each side, yeah.
So the public right of way actually goes over borough property?
It helps access borough property.
Kobe Road's 150 feet.
And I noticed that, I mean, in the past, we haven't funded this, and so this is a long time ask that it's been.
Not in this grant.
This nonprofit request from Kobe Farm Community has been funded. I'm looking at the,
Yeah, 5,000.
let's see, yeah. Last year it was it was funded to the level of 5,000, and the previous year was funded to the level of 5,000.
Well, I can talk firsthand as a first responder. I know the gentleman in the audience there was bringing up them. I've been on calls. I was there last year during the fire, responded on a structure fire and some vegetation fires. And then the prior year, it's very difficult to respond down Kobe Road. Not only is it hard on the equipment, we damaged a lot of equipment just getting them to the fire. We have water tenders. There's not enough room to turn around. So there's definitely been an issue with that road, and especially just from my perspective, getting emergency vehicles in there to help the public to fight the wildland fires, to protect people's structures. I think there's absolutely a need to do something with this road. That's it.
I have another comment.
You would arrange or something. Yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of what Rick has just touched on, that fire had, you know, Clear Air Force Station or Space Station in Pins and Needles. They had a lot of effort put into it. They had Anderson and there, and between there, that fire is between about 5 and 6 miles, and maybe even closer to Clear. That thing would have flipped back, head north. We would have got it. It just all of a sudden decided it wanted to go south. In 4 hours' time, that fire jumped 6 miles. It went all the way down from the river, basically all the way to, it made it within about less than 1,000 feet of the park right away. To give you, and it was chewing right on that hillside. If it got up over that hill, the Bear Creek area, the June Creek, subdivision, that was less than 5 miles. And the way the weather works there, the lightning strikes through that area. Since I've been in there in Anderson since 2005, we had 3 fires. There was fires before that. We had 1 fire on clear property. And that was very scary, very scary. That thing was went lightning strike and it was rampant. They had bombers on board, 8 bombers on that, thank God, right away. That fire was from Anderson, less than 2 miles and clear, it was very close to the radar. The active radar. So that, fire wise, it just isn't Kobe Road people. It is that whole surrounding area, and this is always going to be a continuous, threat. So we definitely need access getting in there.
All right, thank you.
Jared has his hand up.
Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah, thanks. Yep, I would agree, I guess, with that last comment, just kind of on the public safety aspect of this project, knowing the fire history of the area and, unfortunately, needing to anticipate the need for that access in the future. That coupled with, our interest in the property alongside the road and, the value to the borough and having that road be functional and maintained in that area. All really compelling for me. And we have, put some investment in there. And the folks out there are willing to do the work. So I think there's some good leverage to keep the improvements that we've made, in good shape. And leave it at that. So support the 8,000 here.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I see. I was looking at the wrong line. It was like, oh, okay. It's 5,000, and then more in 20.
Right. If no other
Everybody's
comments,
done, so I'd like to make a motion to preliminarily grant the request for $8,000 for the Kobe Road Farm Community.
Second that.
second. All right, it has been moved by Mr. Alexander and seconded to preliminary approve or award the grant to the Kobe Farm Community for 8,000. Is there any objections to preliminary award? Seeing and hearing none, move that is passed unanimously. All right, McKinley Park Community Club, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. This organization maintains and hosts events and makes improvements at the McKinley Park Community Center, where we held our last assembly meeting, and they, like other groups, have put in for utility expenses to keep that community space going, and maintenance expenses, some supplies. And their request, this year doesn't go up a lot, actually. Let's see, they requested 19.2 last year and were funded to 16.5. You see last year, there are a lot of those where things weren't fully funded. And this year we're feeling a little more comfortable in getting to that full funding number. And we're going to recommend full funding for the McKinley Park Community Club.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Any applicant comments?
Yeah.
Hi, my name's Jess. I'm one of the board members for the community club down here, and I will just really briefly thank all of you guys for your time and your service to our community. Our community center has a couple different purposes. Hopefully you've all been there, but it has a community side where it's a large space where you guys had your meeting last time around. Then it also houses our volunteer fire department. So our club oversees the entire building. And so the utilities, the insurance, there are huge expenses for the building of that size, and that's mainly what we're asking for in this grant. So we really appreciate being able to get this grant funding because it does keep the heat and the lights on and helps to pay for the insurance in the building, and also helps us to provide for some community events as well. And Dan is also on the board. He's here as well. We're here to answer any questions if you guys might have any.
All right, thank you. Any public comment? For the McKinley Park Community Club grant. All right, hearing none. We'll move to the Assembly Review and Award. Any comments? From the Assembly?
I'd like to just point out that that is a polling location for the state and borough elections every year as well. And it's nice to have those. Locations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and there was, after reviewing it, there was nothing in there that wouldn't warrant this amount that was given with all the increases and everything. Yeah. So, yeah, that number's a good number. I saw.
I'd agree.
Thanks. It's also a space that, yeah, besides just the elections and your meeting, it's a rentable space. So a lot of people in the community rent it for birthday parties. There's a lot of trainings that take place there. Park Service has trainings, emergency services has trainings there. So it's a really great space.
Yes, thank you. I would, if there's no other Assembly comments.
Then I'd like to make a motion to preliminarily grant the request for $19,875 to the McKinley Park Community Club.
Second.
It has been moved by Mr. Alexander and seconded to preliminary award the grant to the McKinley Park Community Club. Is there anybody opposed to the doing so? Seeing or hearing none, I'll call that unanimous. And we'll move on to the next one, which is a neighbor to neighbor. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Neighbor to neighbor submitted a request for 15,000 this year. We said that we use this grant program to help volunteers provide services in our borough, and neighbor to neighbor does provide critical services to those in their time of need, emergency times of need, and also supplemental aid in terms of food boxes. And they in their requests stated that they've seen an increased need in the community, and we appreciate the work that so many of these groups do, including neighbor to neighbor, and we're going to recommend full funding.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Applicant comments?
Me again. Vanessa. I am the president and treasurer of Neighbor to Neighbor. And thank you for recommending the full funding. And as the mayor said, this is mostly emergency response to people. So it's not necessarily sustaining. And it does fluctuate throughout the whole year. We've definitely seen that this last year. It's kind of gone up and down, and people are able to get off the list, but then more people come on. And so this borough funding helps tremendously to be able to help everyone in the borough. And I'd also like to emphasize that it's the entire borough. We do help everyone from Anderson all the way to Cantwell and in between. And we don't really have one that's helped more than the other. It's definitely spread out fairly evenly across the entire borough. And then Barb was going to talk a little bit about some of the things she's been doing with the food bank. And one thing that we've noticed this year is statewide, people's food stamps have not been delivered to them. They have been delayed. And so when people have gone to Fairbanks, they've told them to go to their local food bank. So we have had an increase in that this year because the food stamps have not been distributed like they usually have been. So Barb, you have some more to say there.
Barb Walters, the grunt. She keeps me busy. As when you go to the supermarket, you probably feel it too. It's a pinch of increased prices. So our Christmas food drive, which was originally one, as Amber could attest to, that was like a big major thing that we did. And so we won't tell you, but it was like a hefty increase in the food boxes this year. And also we had a hefty amount. We had 70, I was looking at our list, and we had 73 families this Christmas, 166 people, 44 children received gifts. So that was a substantial increase. It could go down next year because some of these people do live on the edge not the best circumstances. It fluctuates. We were able at Thanksgiving to offer Thanksgiving boxes, and 35 families took advantage of this. We go from 20 families, and sometimes it's 30 families a month that need a little bit of extra assistance. In our boxes, we provide meat, fresh vegetables, fruits, along with the canned goods, rice, and some staples and so on. And so the boxes average between 70 to 100 pounds of food, depending on the size of the family. So that's why when you see that bin at Three Bears, stop something in, because we are a little bit different than the Fairbanks Community Food Bank, because we have no grocery store that we can salvage from in the winter. They throw it in the dumpster. So we're hoping corporate will change. I talked to the Fairbanks community director. I said, if you get the Fairbanks Three Bears corporate to come on board about salvaging food for food banks, we're right behind you. So the one thing we do borough-wide is helping borough citizens recover from fires. We had the Lake family, Susan Adams and Bill Gill, Brittany Mayer in Cantwell, and the Tischler family all last year. And so what we do is we give immediate cash, we can, and then we also help if they want an organization like ourselves to be the recipients to accumulate donations, and in turn everything 100% goes to them rather than go through GoFundMe, which takes their percentage and so on. We do provide laundry and shower tokens and provide gas certificates. There is a family that has one child that's had multiple surgeries. And so the one thing we can do is give them a little bit of gas money to get to the doctor when they go once a week to Anchorage. Maybe we'll cover one week of that. So these are some things. The one thing we do is we salvage food. So the firefighters, I know in Colby, we salvaged 2,376 pounds of food. And we were able to do 3 pop-up events, which we went to our clients first, and then we were able to open up the excess to anybody in the borough. So that was exciting. The end of summer food salvage, we all the volunteers hauled 15,652 pounds of food from the hotels, the various hotels. That included 7,192 pounds of snack boxes. Did I see a snack box up there?
Feel free to take some tonight.
Those snack boxes went all the way up to the Fairbanks Senior Center and Indiana Senior Center, the schools and so on. Anderson School, Kay Hawkins, God love her, she's right there and getting a lot of food for the infants. Everybody. So everybody just they know to go, and we want to make sure it spreads out to our clients and also the people in need. We do have a limited clothing closet for emergencies, and that's Alana McConnon, who's Dan Pulse's wife. She spearheads this project. So this morning, an elder said, Barb, I have a SNAP, which is the food stamp program, an application in December, and it still hasn't gone through. So December, January, February, March. So 4-month gap. And she says, I can you help? So what do? So neighbor to neighbor, you might see me shopping for, and so I'm giving her, she says she has enough canned goods, but she just needed some fresh stuff.
And she's not the only one here. So that's kind of the state of, and my final thing was, we are partnering with, the exciting thing is we're partnering with Fairbanks Community Food Bank this next month, and she's going to give us about 450 pounds of salmon that we're going to be distributing, along with some food boxes for elders and some food kits for the school. And we also do punch lunches. Absolutely. And providing Lunchables for the schools if they request it. So that's kind of what Neighbor to Neighbor does. Okay.
And so your funding will help us be able to cover a lot of that emergency monthly things that come. That was kind of what we put in our request for, so that we can focus when other big things come up. We'll have that extra slush fund we have to be able to refund some of those. Thank you.
Thank you. Any public comments on this grant? Yes.
Maybe one thing we noticed on our end, population is aging, and there's a lot of single older people in our community that don't necessarily have family around either. I think that's would be one direction we could go. And they can't drive anymore, and they don't want to bother their neighbors to take them to appointments and stuff like that. There'd be some way we can expand that, and I really appreciate all the volunteering that Barb has done all through the years. Now her daughter's taking over.
I'm not taking over yet. She's still in charge. Numbers. I also would like to say, we did get a generous donation from HAT this year of a van. So we are able to travel on the highway much more, since our borough is so spread out. So we actually are able to reach many more people because of HAP's generous donation of a van.
I'll just mention, as a mom of young ones, with the cost of things like diapers, and I don't know if you recall, there was a baby food shortage for, moms who couldn't breastfeed necessarily 100% their child, and as a mother of twins, it happens very easily. Neighbor to Neighbor was instrumental in helping so many families, but just the increased price of these necessities for these families means that the need for Neighbor to Neighbor and those families that are on the edge, they're going to be on that lower level more often than they might not with the inflation and the increased cost of a lot of these necessary goods that they have to receive. So.
Yes.
It's showing how far it reaches. Kay Hawkins lives in Anderson, and talking with the boss, say she is capable of reaching out to these people that don't want help. She's pretty outspoken, highly respected, and thanks to that group that she's able to, pick up food. She drives Fairbanks, it's up and down the highway. The network that's been developed to me is amazing.
Kate is phenomenal.
Yes, she is. Give you an idea, she still goes to school and teaches home ec on her nickel. And she's a pretty gruff old lady, but those kids dearly love her. I mean, she as a child sticks up for every right they deserve.
Thank you. Any other public comment? If not, we'll move into assembly review and award. Any comments from the assembly?
This obviously seems like a good program, and I would encourage everybody in the borough, when they get groceries at the Three Bears, to put something in the bin.
And I've actually witnessed the program. It is absolutely phenomenal. It works. It just impresses me when something that you can just see and it's happening. And I've seen it for the last couple of years. I've had neighbors and family and friends that participated with it. And I've had friends and neighbors that have actually been the recipients of it. So, man, great organization. So, and a shout out to Kay too. She does a great job. You guys are absolutely right with that one too. So keep up the good work.
for me being able to be a part of Neighbor to Neighbor and seeing what services they offer with the money that they get. Is the money's definitely used very wisely. Some of the things they left out is when we've had fires in the past, they also help stand up the evacuation points to receive people as needed. I had the opportunity to help in Nenana with that a couple of years ago. So there a lot of legwork goes into it, and it is, definitely there first and foremost for those emergency situations and help people stay on their feet, not have to try to pick them back up and get them back on their feet, but to stay on their feet. That way they can keep going instead of stopping completely and then having to get back up and go again. So yes, thank you. If there's no other comments, I look for a motion.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to preliminarily approve the $15,000 grant request from Neighbor to Neighbor.
Second.
It has been moved by Mr. Alexander and seconded to approve the Neighbor to Neighbor grant preliminarily. Anyone opposed to approving? Seeing or hearing none, make that unanimous vote for that one, and then we'll move on to Pangini Creek Homeowners Association. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. PCHOA requested 12,000 this year, and 8,000 of that is for road maintenance, and 4,000 is both utility and upkeep of their Forestburg Hall. So they are the ones who started the road maintenance. They're for many years, they were the only organization we funded for road maintenance, just for a little background. And we're going to recommend full funding, full 12,000.
Thank you, Mayor. Do we have anybody on the line for applicant comments? No, nobody. Any public comments for this grant? All right, seeing or hearing none, we'll move to assembly review and award. Any comments?
Yeah, not sure how to phrase this without stirring up more controversy, but it seems like the whole road maintenance subsidies grant program from the borough is a slippery slope. And I know that what we have in front of us tonight are just a few requests for funding, but it seems like we're opening a Pandora's box with any neighborhood within the borough getting together, forming a nonprofit, and soliciting funds in future grant requests. And how is the borough going to handle that? And I'm not saying we shouldn't fund this, and maybe at the next regular assembly meeting, we do have a discussion about, where do we draw the line? How do we draw the line with funding road maintenance requests? I live in a neighborhood, I live in a small subdivision, and we have a road, and it's really incumbent upon all of us who live along the road to maintain it, remove snow, do any maintenance that's required. And, we work together to pay the cost for that, however that sorts out. Certainly don't feel compelled to form a nonprofit in order to get grant monies to fund the road maintenance needs in place of our own responsibility. So, I'll just throw it out there as a question, as a topic that I think we need to discuss as an assembly. Certainly when we get a full assembly present to have said discussion. So.
Yeah, I agree. It can be definitely a topic to discuss on these. Yeah. Any other comments? Right. Hearing none.
Make a motion to fund or preliminarily fund the $12,000 grant request for Pangini Creek Homeowners Association.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. It has been moved by Mr. Alexander and seconded to preliminary award the Pangini Creek Homeowners Association grant for 12,000. Anybody opposed to a preliminary award of this grant? All right, seeing or hearing none, we'll call that unanimous. Then we'll move on to Rail Belt Mental Health and Addictions. Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. For many years, we've funded this request from Rail Belt Mental Health and Addictions. What they asked for is the rent for the Healy office and utilities at that office. So their request hasn't changed a lot over the years. And you know, the services that they provide are you know, substance use and mental health services. And we do have a representative on our Zoom should anybody have questions about their services, which I know have come up in the past. So appreciate that. And with that, I'll just leave it and say that the administrative review recommendation is full funding.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant comments? Or
I have some questions.
right after, we'll let them talk and then we'll do public comment for this one. Yeah. All right, Megan.
Yeah. Hey guys, my name is Megan Spencer. I'm the executive director at Robot Mental Health and Addictions, and I think I'm going on my second year now. I do remember doing this last year as well. So just a quick overview of who we are and what we do. We offer level 1 behavioral health outpatient services for substance use and mental health for kiddos, youth, and adults. We have had our nonprofit status for, I want to say, going on 3 decades now. We have had lots and lots of longevity within our nonprofit, and we have 2 offices in the Denali Borough, the Anderson, and the Healy office. The funding that we ask for is exactly what the mayor was saying, for rent for our office as well as the utilities. It's a little more than we usually ask just because we have upgraded our internet services to provide telehealth services. Sorry, you're gonna hear my kiddos in the background. 1 minute, buddy. To provide I'm so sorry. To provide telehealth services, as well as each of our counselors have a HIPAA compliant Zoom account to make sure that clients are seen through telehealth services if they choose to do so, but it's all going to be secure. So there is a little increase than we normally ask for, and that's on that basis.
All right. Thank you. Public comment.
I have a question for her. How many people do you have in your staff at this point now? And then what kind of business do you have in Healy and Anderson?
So on our staff, we have 5 full-time and 1 part-time. And we offer all of our services through the entire Roebuck catchment region, which is Nenana through Cantwell. Currently, we do not have a full-time staff that is stationed full-time in Healy nor Anderson. Unfortunately, a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, our grants took a major cut. And so one of our biggest grants was the tobacco grant, and it went from $350,000 to $100,000. And so pretty much all positions were cut out of that grant. We also had a full-time mental health counselor in, 1 second. Sorry, We also had a full-time mental health counselor that was in the Denali Borough, but our behavioral health grant got cut. And so we've been cut and reinstated multiple times. But this next grant season, we've actually asked for 2 additional employees, and both of them would be stationed in the Denali Borough. Guaranteed, we're talking about grants. So if it goes as planned by July 1st, we should be hiring for those.
After listening to her report, I highly endorse this. It's back to like the food situation. The state is in need of mental health big time, and just any help they can get, hopefully they can get some more funding, because the state's it's really a mess, state-wise. And definitely the people need the help. There's no question.
Thank you.
Hope for the best.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments? All right. Other public comments, we'll go to assembly review and award. Any comments from the assembly?
I support the recommendation to fully fund this grant.
Yeah, being able to work with Megan on their board as well has helped to really see what the opportunities they have, that we can have to use their services in our area, and that it is nice to be able to have an office here if and when it is needed, to not have to travel to go and seek out their services. And I know that they do a lot of good work in the school right now, in Healy and the other schools, for both the tobacco side and the mental health side as well. So yeah, it's a good organization, and they are getting a lot better at explaining and getting out there and of who they are and what they do. So it's been good having Megan for the past couple of years. All right, if there's no other.
I'd like to make a motion to preliminarily grant the request for $11,500 from the Brailleville Mental Health and Addictions.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, it has been moved by Mr. Alexander and seconded to award the Railbelt Mental Health and Addiction grant. Is there anybody opposed to this? Seeing or hearing none, call that unanimous. And then we'll move on to the Tri-Valley Community Library. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I've made some kind of historical notes along the way, and I'll just go ahead and note that libraries and fire departments are why we stood up this nonprofit program originally in the early 90s. It was to support fire departments and libraries. And we kept that language when we rewrote this section of code a couple of years ago. So with that, Tri-Valley Community Library did submit a request for $23,000. And as libraries do, they plan on spending it on books and materials and subscriptions and wages, and to have somebody there for community library time. So our administrative recommendation is full funding.
All right, thank you. Applicant comments?
It's me again. So I am the president of the Tri-Valley Community Library Board. We're in a unique situation in that we, right now at this second, don't have a library director, but we've hired Cindy Green, who's going to start on April 2nd. So I'll kind of go over what Eli submitted, who has moved to Juneau and is no longer here in the borough. As the mayor said, we usually ask for money for materials, for books, and for wages, and what keeps the library running. This year especially, and in recent years as well, this funding would help tremendously. As we have not been able to do our main fundraiser, which is Mystery Theater, because of the pandemic and the COVID regulations that have happened. So we haven't been able to meet in a big group like that big fundraiser entails. And that's been a big bulk of our budget. So our borough funding always is a huge help this year especially. And Cindy will be at our library. And another thing too about wages, we always want to be a competitive wage. We want someone to stay at the library and to be able to have our hours. And we do have different hours than most businesses since we are open in the evenings and the weekends. So Cindy has been able to fulfill those requirements that we usually have for those library grants that we also ask for from the public library assistant. So we look forward to having Cindy work with us, and she hopes to be doing some more programming and events on the weekends and some more Saturday events. So get some of the community involved, some of the borough, and some of those seasonal employees that come in here, try to get them more involved with the library. Do you have anything else you want to say, Cindy?
Like I said before, I'm a retired Bush teacher. I did teach here for 2 years and fell in love with Ely, bought some property and have been trying to build it. On my short 8 to 10 weeks home in the summers. And because of the pandemic, I stayed here. Will be leaving as soon as we're done here. I'm finished here, not you. As I still have a job to go to and go open a grocery store at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, as you're well aware of. I do have lots of ideas because of my previous residency full-time here in Healy. Number one, bringing back the Mystery Theater this fall. So be looking for me knocking on your door. I would like to reach out more to our transient community in the summer and offer some other alternative, more positive recreational things on a Saturday evening, like maybe a movie night, a cultural night one week, poetry reading. I did very, very briefly get to talk to Jennifer, our own Iditarod runner, and asked her if she would be willing to speak on her love of running her dogs and how she got involved in the Iditarod, just so our outsiders will have real local expertise on such a national, worldwide event. So, and she said, yeah, I guess I'm willing. And I said, I'll get to you later. So I'm just very blessed to have my foot back into a school building once again. And greatly looking forward to the prospects of raising more money and providing lots of services for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any public comments? All right. Hearing none. We'll move on to assembly review and award. Any assembly comments?
Who doesn't like a library? And I'm looking forward to the Mystery Theater. It was like one of my first years here, and it was really fun. I was a good audience member. I applauded heartily.
They need their guinea pigs.
Right. Hearing none, I entertain a motion.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to preliminarily grant the request of $23,000 from Tri-Valley Community Library.
Second that.
All right, it has been moved by Mr. Alexander and seconded to preliminary grant the Tri-Valley Community Library grant and for $23,000. Is there anybody opposed to preliminary awarding this grant? All right, seeing or hearing none, we'll call that unanimous in favor of doing that. Tri-Valley Subdivision HOA Incorporated. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. This also is a group that's new to the grant program. And they did submit an application, a request for $8,000 for road maintenance of the subdivision roads. And in reviewing the application, it really, in my review of it, meets the intent of the program, which is to provide, a supplemental funding for groups, for nonprofits who provide community benefit. They are a nonprofit. They're a recognized nonprofit in the state of Alaska. And the community benefit, not just the members, is those public facilities within the subdivision, of course, daycare, DPLC, and 3 churches. And then working through the grant program itself, we do have a requirement that's in code that the applicant needs to submit that IRS letter of determination, which they did not have and do not have. And so that's why I have left it blank in terms of a recommendation. But I do believe they meet the intent of the program, and we do have representatives from the organization to have that discussion and come to a decision on it.
All right, yeah.
From our findings, the HOA may not be approved for that letter. And we're different from other HOAs like the Pinkini, because we have a declaration that covenants over our land. They do not, they're more of a community. They'll go over bylaws just for the community as a whole. We actually have bylaws for the individual lots that have restrictions. So in our research, about a 50-50 whether or not that letter would be approved. So I wasn't going to rush, and I didn't know how that even worked. I was told I could submit that letter asking for that status, and that would then we would meet code. But if it came back with a no, I was like, well, and knowing good and well it's about a 50-50 shot, I wasn't gonna even muddy the water even more. So that IRS designation letter is a maybe. And HOAs by definition do not fall underneath that category, but some have shown that they have passed, because the HOAs are very broad. Like there's condos, there's townhouses, and there's a huge community like we have that actually have roads. Most HOAs don't even have roads, they're just a little lot built up or out. So it's not a fact that we could have that, but so that's with that letter. And I feel good about the 8,000 is controlled. I think it was mentioned that it's spiraling where you're 8,000 is pretty controlled, and I like that number because I'm the accountant for it. It's doesn't make or break anything, but it does help kind of push things a little bit more forward faster than it would have. Maybe it could keep an eye on problem areas a little bit better, but it's not going to cause a ton amount of work, additional work.
I would also like to talk on behalf of the HOAM and on the grant committee when we applied for this grant. So we did talk with a tax accountant, and this particular HOA falls under tax exempt status 528, which is where this is coming from. All of the other nonprofits fall under tax exempt 501c3 or 4 or 7. So that's the difference that you're seeing here, just for anyone who was curious where that's coming from. So the HOA kind of has its own tax exempt status. It's the only one that falls under a 528. So that's where that's from. And the tax accountant wasn't even, we kind of stumped her too. She's like, I'm not sure what to do, because like Jennifer said, we very well could be denied the 501c4 just because of the covenants that are involved. So we wouldn't want to go for it and they get denied when people think that we might have it. So that's where that's kind of the background of what Jennifer is saying. But going back towards the road maintenance. So in the HOA, almost all of the fees and annual HOA things that come in are going directly to road maintenance. That's one of our only line items that we actually spend in the budget, which Jennifer could talk to a little bit more as well. And so that's why earlier when Holy Mary Guadalupe asked why Jennifer kind of was reaching out, because she wasn't sure how that would kind of fall, because pretty much it's a wash on the budget of the HOA. All the fees that are coming on are going right back out to road maintenance. So there's no, it's pretty much 100% in, 100% out for the most part. There's very little that's being held over. And like we mentioned before, they did have a work session. They laid out on the map the different problem areas in the subdivision, which the public is using. And in that HOA setup in the declaration, the road itself is declared as a public part of the HOA. It's not the members part, it's the common public element that the rest of the public, not only just the HOA, is using. So there are sections that do need extensive work, such as the culvert mentioned earlier. There's also some other flooding, and most of it's flooding or culvert damage that you might see that would need specific focused funding. And so what Jennifer and the HOA is asking for is for general road maintenance for the plowing, so that some of that other funding could be used for those specific funding that would make there's no dangerous and hazardous areas that the public is going to be driving on. And there might be even more public driving this year coming up too.
Now I'd like to just say that as a comment that I thought everyone knew, but you know, if you're not a member, you don't know. Usability Coal Mine now has absolutely zero authority over this land. Zero. That's by choice. They are just members. They own land here and they're members. So they have vote just like everybody else. There's no authority. There's no, if there is an incident where another road is washed out, there's not there's not a direct call with a little bit more of a, okay, we need to take care of this because we have a little bit more ownership. They're equal. That lifeline is no longer exist. I mean, maybe a courtesy, just being nice, but there's no requirement for them to help take care. And it's almost a quarter of the population in the borough resides inside the subdivision. So there is roads should be a big discussion because of the stability. I mean, the strength of the roads is the strength of the community. So it's that gray area about the IRS designation letter. But I stated in a kind of explanation letter that any request that we do make will only be towards the public elements of our declaration, which are the roads. So we're not going to ask for wages or to cover insurances or to any other thing that would be kind of more member specific, but just for the public elements, which are the roads. And I'd like to just talk about some of the priorities that we set forth when we had our work session. The number one priority is that the lake that forms at the bottom of Sulphide that is on the way to the DPLC. That would be our number one priority. And then there's another one. There are two lakes that form on the other side of the subdivision that we would be addressing as our second priorities. But basically we named about 5 different areas, and we would work on those in priority order. But yeah, that one going to the DPLC, and we do have a member that has a game camera watching the DPLC's traffic just to see how many cars. And he did say that there are an average of 35 cars that go to the DPLC every day. So on the roads for the HOA. So that's a bit of information.
17 kids a day have to be dropped off and picked up.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I will state that we do have summer, not necessarily tourists, but a lot of seasonal employees. Not a lot, but regularly that we have seasonal employees, transient employees that do host children that we host as attendees at DPLC. So it kind of ebbs and flows through the year, but it is linked to our tourist industry in that regard, that having a healthy access to DPLC supports that ability for having more service.
Yes.
I have a question on the association. How much of money is in reserves?
27,000.
That's your slush fund.
That's what it carried over from year to year. Yeah.
I mean,
Yes, yes. I mean, I guess, yes.
so the other thing is, you guys are kind of beating on a dead horse, you know, I remember as kids stuff, but that thing is that place has had a lot of problems. Used to go, I went and bought the building from bankruptcy. Dumped in a bunch of money into it. Get it to where it is now, and then, and the reason being. The industry around here needs workers, so it frees up. A lot of people to be able to go to work. So it's a necessary evil, and I realize you're looking for money from everywhere, but without that building, it'd be a nightmare for a lot of people to go to work. I mean, I wish we had one in Anderson. I realize the hard things on it, but I think that's across the bear that everybody in this town has to be looking at. The other question I have, this is to the borough. I realize you have that the code has the stringence they are with the IRS code they're under. Could that go under review with the borough, if that would be acceptable or not? I mean, this takes some teamwork here. And, or is the door going to be closed, you know? If a person's going to start endeavoring this, it'd be nice to see some dialogue to yay or nay. That's all.
That's what we're doing here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, what did he go? I mean, I don't want to just harp on that. I mean, that was a great thing Isabelli did, but it seems like no good deed goes unpunished. And now we're blaming, they put so much traffic on that road, it's flooded now. That's not the case. I mean, thank God that's here. I mean, like everyone says, we have to have that for that. But it goes, we have to have people too, just people living and reproducing. And that's the strength of the borough too. And the community, 188 lots, I think only 17 are undeveloped. So that's a ton of homes that are sitting there. And be nice to have visitors that aren't used to gravel roads. I know we're just used to them. My first 3 years, it takes you back trying to navigate the roads. And I would love for people from Clear, like come into Alaska to look at our subdivision and Healy and borough and, live in the borough, don't commute from Fairbanks, find a great town here and to use our schools. So there's a lot to be said about strength of all the roads and community to keep people here and not to commute from out of borough, out of state.
And I also had a question for the borough. It sounds like just from all of the grant requests, we do have a lot that have been road maintenance. Is there another possibility for that to be funded through the borough, if not through the nonprofit grants? And maybe what those other opportunities might be? That was just a thought that had come up since this was just an avenue we knew about to go about for funding for the HOA. But if there was a different avenue, we would definitely take that as well, since we are very specific to road maintenance and not like some of the other nonprofits that have been here for like education or childcare or some more of the community type events. So I'd be interested to know what the borough would maybe eventually do for a road maintenance budget of some sort. I'm not sure what that would be.
Thank you. Any other public comments? All right, with no other public comments, we'll turn it over to Assembly Review and Award. Any comments or thoughts?
Yeah, I have a couple questions regarding Tri-Valley Homeowners Association. How many members are there? And what is the current fee structure?
There's 188 lots inside that the members would be if there's a trust or if the member count can fluctuate. And there's an average of about 2 owners of the lots, that those who can vote, not necessarily people that live inside of there. So the members, there's 188 plus if there's a co-owner or if in a trust, who is inside the trust is the actual. So it's a little more of a loaded question. And the fee structure is $220 per acre.
Oh.
And
that's
per year? annual cost, annual fee?
Annually, so $220 per acre, once a year, usually around the first quarter is when dues are paid.
And how much is the average lot size?
There's a cap on the lots too.
See, there's so we bring in $75,000 for dues a year. $75,000 what we bring in. Isabelli had originally had the contract for admin, accounting, and the road up until just less than a year. So they no longer do the road contract that ended in March. They no longer have the accounting admin. That's me. That ending now. We're transitioning now. So the HOA now has complete control over the costs. Well, that's good or bad. We'll find out. You know, how was Isabelli really helping us out, or was we'll see. You know, we'll see what kind of cost control we can come up with. So yeah, 75,000 what we bring in per year. And then for road maintenance, our budget was 36,000 for this current year. And that was not knowing the unknowns of how much I would be charging, the computer, just unknown from taking stuff from Isabelli to here, but we're hoping that 36 can go up if we can keep admin fees down. Insurances can hopefully stay if there's no incidents or issues. And that's that's a cost that can just balloon, as everyone probably knows. So it's yeah. So, and then fee for Evans is our current contractor, and their fuel prices, I mean, they go up. We're trying to come up with a 3-year contract with Evans for them to really get to know our roads. They wanted the security of having a 3-year contract. We're changing the structure of how we even plow our roads. So they have a little bit more control, because before Isabelli would kind of let it would build up, like the buildup of snow with the hard pack would be a lot. And so during breakup, it was the roads usually, I just won't leave I just didn't leave the house because it wasn't worth very good for my skin plate, honestly. So we are trying to plow more consistently, and that's what this 8,000 I wrote before. It's for more consistent snow plow to hopefully then get that hard pack off the road. And then breakup will be better, and then that would maybe not let the road deteriorate as fast in the summer. So 8,000 for more consistent plowing.
Thank you.
I have a question, I guess. First off, just say that I would like to see us be able to support this application. I think kind of the descriptions of the nonprofit status and what these funds would be used for all makes sense to me and seems like it fits within the program. Certainly more appropriate for this organization than some of the other nonprofits, housed within that area. But since this is the entity in charge of the road maintenance, makes sense to go give road maintenance money through them, since they're the ones managing the whole the whole program there. But are these public right of ways through the HOA? Like I know out here on Stampede, is a state subdivision, so all the right of ways are public in that sense. But is it the same case in Tri-Valley, or is that all?
Yes. Every single one of our roads is considered public. So we can ask for this money and then put a gate up. Everything has to remain public. The only time we can close is temporarily for maintenance. But it's very clear in the declaration that these roads are public roads. And if the HOA were to be dissolved, they would still remain public. They have to always remain the public roads unless another nonprofit came in and took over that duty.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I'm also a little, has to be part of a bigger conversation about roads in general. But the argument of it being, these nonprofit organizations that we're actually contributing to, and the churches, which are, offer community service, and is compelling in that it's also an asset for the borough as a whole in summers for visitors, and not only for our own residents, but. So my inclination is to figure out some way to push a little money towards this.
And we also need to have the discussion about the culvert for the Holy Mary of Guadalupe Catholic Church and how we can maybe work it into this as well. One of my questions I had is that, did you look into the matching grant side of portion of?
So I will admit that some of it was a bit last minute. And for reaching out to see how to do that. We didn't realize that the HOA was going to be a different tax exempt. That kind of threw us for a loop a little bit, where it is tax exempt, but it's in its own very own category. It was kind of a surprise. So that was a kind of a learning curve there to find out what we can do about that. And like I said, we stumped the tax account. She's like, well, it's kind of here nor there, because the same HOA might apply to IRS and get denied and then get approved like the whole next. So it's really up to me for that. But yeah, I would, like I mentioned earlier, if there was another avenue to go through, we're definitely for that.
You mean like to have capital improvement projects for us to fall under a capital improvement for the roads?
Yeah, just with our matching grant.
That code different? Would you have to have the IRS?
I don't think that's in there for the IRS portion. That I saw reading through it real quick.
Yeah, I'd have to look at our code on that.
Well, the application.
Yeah, and I think too, the HOA we would have to have more of a discussion about capital improvements and whether or not we'd like to after that much government assistance for the capital improvement, or if members want more. You know, it would be more of a discussion. The 8,000. That's why I said I kind of like that 8,000, because it wasn't asking for so much from the borough. It was asking for enough to make it manageable. You just add a little extra.
Well, and just it's mainly just for this year. I was thinking about it just because the minimum is 5,000 and then it goes up to 75,000. So with that project in there, it might have. Yeah.
Maybe the DeBlouse can speak to the IRS portion of that, because they were doing matching grants before.
And they do have the declaration letter, Jeff. So, so yeah, they're eligible for both programs because they have that IRS declaration letter. And
okay.
And yeah, it is a requirement of the matching grant as well.
Okay.
So
Thank
is there any federal nonprofit piece of paper you can get? Or not nonprofit?
Basically, it automatically falls under 528 because it's only for HOAs. We could maybe find out.
I could give you our taxes from last year that show that we didn't pay any taxes. So we are taxes that are exponent, are what we, how we spend money, how we operate business is not taxable.
But nothing from the federal government that.
Only
Federal
only
government approves that we
the
didn't have no
approved
taxes.
1128 form we do at the end of the year, like the tax form, but again, that's not necessarily what you're.
Yeah.
I see what you're asking. We could maybe contact the IRS and find out.
Looks like they don't get the declaration
Like a 501c3 and
Yes.
stuff.
It just falls automatically under the HOA
Yeah.
528. It would be worth looking into for sure.
Maybe I could make a recommendation. In the past, we have had a number of organizations who've either had their status lapse or needed to apply for it during the grant season. And, that application was pending and, we approved the grant to move forward. And, Jennifer, you mentioned that it was maybe 50-50. So maybe if you could take that step and go ahead and apply, and, whichever way it falls for this season, then we can move forward with a pending application to the IRS. And then, we could consider our code, right? We rewrote that section of code not that long ago, frankly. And the requirement, the upper requirement is that you're a nonprofit and provide a community service, but then in the details, we specifically said IRS determination letter, and that was not that long ago. We put that in there. And, maybe we could revisit that if that doesn't fit what
Say,
we really
and,
want out of this
whatever they're-
program.
they
We want it to be
qualify
a nonprofit. And we want it to be, we could see how that could fit.
Would you be willing to try for the letter?
She would have to.
I don't know if it's like. It might be a lot, might be a lot of layers to it. I don't, do some research, because I hate for it to avoid anything in the declaration. It had to be researched. Yeah, I'd research it. I'm not opposed to it.
And I did ask the tax accountant that, and one of the things that she had pointed out is the way that we do the tax form, the 1120H at the end of the year, which is different from the 1120, but it's 1120H. It's like a one line item, like half a page form, where the 990 is a bit bigger. So I think that's why they were not doing that. And so it would create some more paperwork for sure. But I definitely, it seems like a board decision, Kesson. So we could bring it to the board, right?
Yeah, we could do that. We have a meeting in April.
Pending. Is it pending consideration?
Yes. So that's the motion you're looking for. Oh, yeah.
Okay. But, and so we would just, there would be no dollar amount, or we would, yeah, we gotta talk about that too, right?
I'd recommend, funding as
The full
as
funding?
organization works through consideration of having IRS.
So it'd be a preliminary funding pending. It'd be like a double maybes.
Yeah.
I do have a question for the assembly. So if the board, since it's not really a one-person decision, if the board decided to continue with the 528, like, would you not consider the 8,000? Then I guess would be another question.
Well, I think if there's some type of document that can state that it's, and it doesn't have to be the 501c3 one, but.
Well, it kind of has to be, right, according to the code. That's the problem. We would have to change the code to allow this other 503.
The board has all the information. So if they did decide to stay with the 528, then they wouldn't get the 8,000.
No, we would have to change the code. And, yeah, right? Am I correct?
Good.
And we could do that.
It's not nonprofit.
Revert the code to what it was before that.
Yeah. We're looking.
Or add that particular organizations. What is it? What is it again?
528 tax exempt status.
Just add the 528 as and the 528.
Yeah, all of the rest, like there's a 501c3, a 4 or a 7 that would be tax declared.
So we're dealing two different governments for this.
Yeah.
Right. They are a state nonprofit. They meet that.
So would. All right, I mean, the only thing we can do right now is to have a pending.
Yeah, a preliminary pending on.
Right, right. And then you have to decide whether or not you want to go for that, and if you decide that you're not, then there would be no grant.
Yeah. As it sits right now.
As it sits right now, and then we would have to change the code in order to allow that.
So I also have another question. So if we decide to apply for the 501c4, it's very likely we will get denied. In that case, we're kind of like, we still need road maintenance. But
Then we would have to. I don't know how they, or how would we just decide to change the code?
Yeah, I think we would still just work on the code.
Yeah.
Changing it because they're also obviously nonprofit and getting tax exempt,
Right.
just the gray area of the right paperwork. Yes, Jared.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, yeah, I am off. I would just say yeah, it seems as simple as just getting a letter of confirmation from the IRS that the HOA is tax exempt. It doesn't need to be a specific determination on any of those, but just a plain, I think as long as we can verify that, to me, that meets the intent of the code there. So I don't know if you can track down a friendly person at the IRS that would
Good luck.
write us a letter to that effect, but it may, for me, it may just be as simple as that. If that's all we need to verify, and whether it's a C4 or any of the other ones. So
Go ahead.
I hope it doesn't get too complicated, but boy, it sure can. And
One thing, this HOA, there's a lot of complaints and stuff about it, but you gotta realize one thing, we all gained ownership of the property from the lease. That puts that to bed. We bought this problem. I'd like to put this to rest when go on, getting tired. And that there's research on both sides. And I see indecision here, which way they want to go. And I see the borough is willing to work. So,
I concur.
and I think we're in a good
Yeah, me
positive
too.
point here.
All right, then I'm gonna make a motion to have a pending preliminary approval of the grant request of $8,000 for the Tri-Valley Subdivision Homeowners Association.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Alexander and seconded to preliminary pending approval for the Tri-Valley Subdivision HOA for $8,000. Anybody opposed to that?
No.
Not seeing any, call that unanimous. All right, thank you for that. It was a good discussion. Now we'll move on to our matching grant application review. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. We did receive two matching grant applications this year. And one of them is for the maximum for the entire program, and that's 75,000. And that's from DPLC to complete not really an addition, but an annex to be able to provide more services for infants. And it's a project that they're working on, that they have other grant monies for, and has come in quite a bit above original estimates due to inflation, and the 75 would get them there. And the other request is from Kobe Farm Community for 24,000 to continue with road improvements in their area. So, it's tough to not fund an organization, make a recommendation to not fund an organization, but looking at the two applications and then the community kind of bang for the buck, and also knowing that there's some potential that the state through the public assistance program may be supporting Kobe roads more. There's no guarantee right now. Making an administrative recommendation to fund the full 75 for Denali Preschool and Learning Center for a matching grant program.
All right, thank you, Mayor. He hit on both of them right now, but we will go individually for applicants' comments, and we'll start with the Denali Preschool Learning Center.
I appreciate all the support from everybody. DPLC received $250,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA grant. We've run into a capacity issue due to our licensing. We can only have a certain number of young children under the age of 18 months, or actually technically 3 years and under. The way that our building is situated, we're going to split kids into 2 rooms. If they're 3 and up, we put them in 1 room, and they can have a ratio of 10 children for 1 staff person. On the infant and toddler side, the ratio for children, which it seems crazy to me as a twin mom, but like 5 infants, 18 and under, can go towards 1 staff person, which is still crazy to me, but you can have 6 18 to 3-year-olds in a room with 1 staff person. But anytime you have any child under 18 months, that ratio drops down. So you could have 1 10-month-old, and what we end up with a lot of times, 4 who are over the age of 18 months. The way that our building is situated, they all have to go on 1 side. We also lack a designated sleep area. And when my twins were born, and there was a little surge of babies in the area around the same time, to get quite a few that are that 20 to 28-month-olds, and we had 7 infants at once and no designated nap area. And we had 3 that were older, and they were all trying to play in 1 space. And it became, and it's always been an issue. So when the ARPA funds became available, our prior director, our prior grant wrote significant maxed out grants, which at the time, like we would have funded close to what we needed. Build an addition or a separate building for infants. That money was not enough when we finally received the money. When we got the estimates, the updated estimates with all the details of what we needed were about 40% higher than what we had originally written the grant for, which was actually what we had. We continue to write grants for lots of small projects, from the Disability Foundation and Walmart local grants. We do a lot of grant writing, but very few of them are large. 2,000 a year, 5,000 a year. So we do write a lot of grants to try to support smaller projects, but the opportunity to have a matching grant. So we have the infant building for licensing. We also have to designate different development outdoor play pieces. And so that was another significant project that we wrapped up into this is fencing, because we have to redo almost the entire fencing around our play area, as well as add a separation between the older kids' play pieces and the younger kids' play pieces. Due to the new building, we have to add more of those gates and such. So a fencing project is a significant project. So it seemed for us to behoove us to write for the max, which is why we did. It's just there's not enough money for everything.
Thank you. Any public comment for?
Yes. On this, it's quite clear there's 75,000 max, and I'm not downgrading their needs, but fair is fair. Healy's got quite a bit of money north of Penn Guinea. We just have a possible 8,000, and then definitely would like to try for the 24. I'm suggesting dropping them down to 51,000 and sliding in Kobe Road for the 24. And once we get to Kobe Road, I'll start giving you a lot of reasons why I'm making this statement. And then one thing, they're worried about the young people. We're worried about the old people. So we got 2 spectrums as far apart as you can get. But I think fair is fair here. And that's all I have to say on that part. But I definitely like the borough to consider that. And I'm definitely, when we get to Kobe Road, I'm going to be pushing very hard. And I have a lot more reasons that I haven't brought out yet. Thank you.
I'm wondering, since you've got $400,000 left over from the not-for-profit section, why can't some of that go towards this section? I mean, I understand that it says in code, it says up to $75 in matching grant awarded. But it seems like if the borough has more money, then you should be able to, and if the assembly has the ability to use that money, you should be able to use the money for things that need to be done.
Kobe Road is a public road, and you heard the reasons, and it serves many. I also want to point out that there's a youth camp on Kobe Road, and that it provides important programs to many youths from the area and also the state. And that programs that help their development, like a hockey program and like DPLC, they're offering help for the development of the youth. This year is so important on Kobe Road because of this fire. It damaged the fire, and then we were just happy they came in and did all that massification. I never used that word before, but that's what it is. On both sides of the road, and we need to follow up. We need to follow up because of nature. This is going to take over again and improve. Why would we just let it sit there? And $8,000 is great, but we need the 24,000. We need what that other state thing might offer us. We need it all to get it done. So Kobe Road started in 2019. And really, it was because the Denali Borough supported this nonprofit. We went ahead because of this support. If you look at the spreadsheet that you have in your hands tonight, matching grants were denied to Kobe Farm Road in 2022, in 2023, and it looks like it wants to do it this year. I will just be bold. I'm going to be bold here and suggest, like it has already been suggested, that this $75,000 that is the limit for matching grants be divided between two applicants, DPLC and Kobe Farm Community, and let each of these nonprofits meet some of the goals. Thank you.
Then, I may, so DPLC clearly has a lot of need. We only like these chapter centers in 100-mile area provide resources to a local childcare providers for a variety of different families, from all the way to teachers in Hannah and staff that we've done in well. So we're traveling on the highway in 100-mile. But I do need to move for these buildings of capacity needed for the entire borough. It's not just really, although yes, the project is really, it does serve families all the way to things that teach in the net, but live up to it. That does not mean that I would be upset if some of the money went to another nonprofit. I definitely feel that there are several projects that could be split off. But finishing the baby building is a huge priority. I don't know if we could do it with 50,000. I do think we could probably do it for closer to 5, and we will make it work with whatever we have and whatever we would be given. But there is a huge amount. I understand that there are needs, and I absolutely, but I do want to highlight we are serving people, not just people.
Missed that last comment.
The main point was that the families being served by DPLC extend outside of the Healy direct community, and that we have families driving 100 miles round trip from Cantwell. We have families who teach in Annan live north of the park up towards June Creek. So it was just to highlight the main point that our constituents extend throughout the borough. Also, the necessity for the baby building to be completed is very, very important to ensure the fiscal future of DPLC as it increases our capacity to take in more tuition. And I'm forgetting my final point, but that was the majority of it.
That's good. I caught the rest. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So last fall, the borough part of that Clear Fire was they went and put money up, and then to go back, and they had 18 different structures that were burnt out to go do cleanup on those. And the borough naturally didn't have money enough. There was some people that didn't get it done. They run the money out. They hired Great American Mining and Walt Warner. And we worked in 2 different areas, and we, under really tight guidance to stay in the budget, we were on the phone daily, keep from running over. And did this, this cleanup. These people are totally burnt out. And a lot of them, that, if they build that, like Phil Gill, when I was talking to him, that fire come right through him, and was just moments was there. And firefighters had to jerk them out, and it comes so fast. And he's right on the road. He's, within less than half a mile, maybe 3/4 of a mile from the party. So these people are wanting to go back and build, some of these people are wanting to go back and build, and then those new people moving in, properties changing hands. There's new people, but this area, even though it's burned up, it's looked like the third world planet when we were walking around in there. But before I left, there's a lot of greenery coming up, and this spring will be a tremendous amount. But once again, I'm advocating for the elders, and you got all these other grants they're tying, for access and safety. This road is it's for the ambulance and the fire departments. It's very iffy, and a good day, and if it's raining or something, then they wouldn't be able to get in. And right now, we'd like to get it, so you call the ambulance. They could get in there. Well, I mean, 2 years ago, not this winter, but the winter before, between Clear and Anderson, there was some outrageous hard recoveries to get to the patient. So I feel it's totally fair, going, the split that I've said. I mean, they're just wanting to turnkey it. That's fine. I can understand this. We're just trying to gather a road again that we'd had a lot better. We won't get back to where we were pretty far. And this money that we're talking about that may come, I did the dead work last fall. That was turned into the borough, and the problem is, we don't know if that agency is going to do it or not. And I don't want to go through this season and lose before the plants start growing again, losing that work, that we can gain. It'll cost way more money to get that road repaired if we wait another year. It's, instead of, asking for 24,000, you do like 75 to get this thing to go from 24. It's a big jump. Thank you.
Can we ask a question?
Yes.
Go ahead. Jay.
On that 24,000, are you guys, how much further are you extending? Or are you just repairing the part that's already in? What's the plan? Are you gonna go further back?
No, we are not. The problem with all the roads out there, if you take the existing ground level, the road is lower than that. And from yesteryear, they just took a tractor, pushed the moss off and started driving on the grill. And then, like, if you're in a park now, they put D1 on the road, they calculated they lose about a ½ inch a year off of that park road, wind blowing away. Well, that has happened out there. So each year that rut gets deeper and deeper, when the weather's dry, when the fire season was going, there'd just be big plumes of dust, every time a truck drove by.
Are you only fixing the first mile then? What?
The tie-in, Battle Axe Road and Kobe, it's a roughly, the whole thing is 1.5 miles.
And no plan to go further in?
No, and the reason being that would be big money. There's no one living back there. It goes into a big swamp. You either got to go north 1 mile, then keep on going west. And but when you take off in the other roads, they're going up 4 to 5 miles going north. which is access
Yeah,
of
yeah.
Kirby Road.
I understand that, and there's gonna be significant runoff with no vegetation, the way the fire went through, so work is needing to be done, or it's just all gonna wash away. But wouldn't it benefit more people if you went further back?
Um,
I mean, how many people live in that mile and a half?
let's look at it. That's a baseline, a mile and a half, then you run north. Well, some of those cabins in this deal were 6 miles further north, but when you go north, then the roads go out wider. They can go out. If you go from Rochester out, they're getting out to probably 3 to 5 miles. A lot of
Yeah,
people,
I mean, I'm just trying to see how many people benefit from that. Yeah, I support doing more work to it. I just think it'd be better if you went further.
we're opening up the access. We're opening the access up for the people wanting to go north on the Battle Axe and Rochester. We're talking many, many thousands of acres. That has been sold, you know, there is deeds to that property.
Yeah. I mean, I go back there. I know what you're talking about. And work has to be done with all that, with the fire burning off all the vegetation, everything's going to wash away if you don't get something done. Something has to be done. But I think the more people that benefit from it, if you could go further, you know what I mean? Help other folks instead of the people on that first mile and a half, it would benefit everybody.
Right.
And that's what Kobe Road does. It benefits everybody. You gotta go in on that road. And then you can go north and see what can happen up there. But Kobe Road has to be fixed for that.
To answer your question in another way, when Kobe Road, Kobe Farm Community was formed, both Battle Axe and Rochester were dead against it, and the borough can quite remember. That was,
Oh yeah, I know that.
And now things of the fire, after the fire has come around. And so if this other money that Clay is talking about comes in, it would encompass going a mile north on Rochester and a mile north on Battle Axe, which would be a big win.
That'd be huge, because that first go there, that big old hole there before Battle Axe's old place,
right,
is a mess, and that inhibits a lot of people getting in and out. I mean, I pull people out there every year.
You're talking on Kobe that big, or in Battle Axe that big lake, but both those roads on the north have big lakes. One in the rainy season. And that was the hope, you know, we don't know what's gonna happen this summer, but I'll tell you, everybody was pretty calm and tame out there last fall. And I was amazed how much help, you know, when you're going through the people's life possessions and they're right there helping you clean up.
Oh yeah.
I was totally blown away.
Yeah.
It really hard.
No, I'd like to see a way that we can fund both. It's going to be a mess if there isn't funding put towards that road. It's all just going to wash away if we have a rainy season, and it's going to be a huge mess. You'll lose everything that you gained over the last 4 years. So I'd like to see a way that we could fund both.
I agree with you.
We're gonna go with Mr. DeBlau first. He's been waiting.
I don't hear well, everybody knows that, so I don't get everything. Yeah, that money from that, the state, it's not guaranteed. And if we do get it, it's gonna help to bring it back to what it was before the fire. 2 requests for matching grants come in, one 75,000, one is 44,000. It just seems like fair to, you know, like fund both. we moved into the subdivision in 1992. We lived there for 18 years. I've driven by the kids stop every day for 18 years. They provide a service and people pay for that, don't they? And if they can't afford it, I just leave their help get money. I know that daycare workers, they don't make money. It's a thankless job and all that. And they work hard. But, you know, and they've been bailed out like by Isabelli and stuff like that. I've worked on that place myself when I worked for Rock and Roll. Yeah, and if somebody's driving Cantwell or wherever out there, can't they get with their neighbors or something out there? They're not hauling their kids 50 miles. We do it in our family, you know. Our daughter-in-laws wouldn't think of taking them to a daycare. One daughter-in-law works and the other one takes care of her girls.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to not judge other people's decisions for having working parents. I would also like to highlight that the DPLC is not Kid Stop, that the board at DPLC is working on financial viability and independence and has been working diligently to fund our own projects so that Isabelli is not paying for all of the upkeep in all of the major projects, which is why we've worked so hard to make sure that our tuition rates are fair, that our tuition policies are tight so that we can maintain sustainability. And so we don't have to rely on another business to take care of us. We've been doing a very good job of taking care of DPLC and to get these improvements in place. There are a growing number of families. Yes, I think historically there were a lot of families who had one working parent. Many of us moved here because we love the area, because there was great work, but the cost of living has increased tremendously and it's no longer feasible for us to have only one parent working. And a lot of us don't have family that lives nearby. We moved here from out of the area and we have lived here for a long time. You might consider us new to the area, but living here for 10 years or 25 years is not new to the area. But yet our family has moved away. So it's not always viable to have family care for your children. So DPLC's need in a remote area in interior Alaska is exceptionally important. We have a project with a very viable and a very specific need with a very specific endpoint with the completion of the building, where you have a road with endless need, endless source. It will constantly need upkeep and management. And clearly a very, very, very large project. A state funding is never guaranteed for something like the road that you're looking to fund. I understand that, but we have a building that is so close to being done, and the project and this year's matching grant funds would be incredibly helpful for us to tie a knot on the end of a project to ensure that we can continue to help so many families who don't have any other resource other than DPLC, because we don't have family nearby. There's no other licensed childcare center in the area for them to go to. And overall, there's a lack of childcare options in the entire borough.
Vanessa.
I have two things to say. First, I feel like most of us probably support both of these projects. And I'm curious on looking back that the limit has changed. Is that something that was recent? Just for a question more to the assembly, is that a recent change that you've increased it to 75 just this year?
Last year, I believe.
Last year as well?
Last year, previous limit was 24,000 for a project, and we could fund up to 3 projects. And we changed that to a total sum.
And then my other question also goes back to what Keston said, maybe if the assembly could find a way to move what wasn't used in the nonprofits too, to help for both of them. I don't know how that works with the code, but I I'd hate to like fit both of them together. They're such different projects and both are needed. And I don't think that we necessarily make any progress by doing that here. I believe that we probably would say that the community would probably support both of these. But they sound like they're both important for two very different reasons.
Thank you.
At this point, through the last 2 years, working with these folks, and at this point, I got to meet all the meetings. Pretty well got them built and use their own equipment. So we're getting full bang for the buck. If they need help, feel free. They can lean equipment, someone else in to help them. But these last couple of grants are so empty small. They've got it pulled in. Doing the work. And it's way more than. They're pretty well covered. There's a lot of bang for the dollar. One thing I can understand. The work in those buildings, but this is a new agency, really. I haven't got to see their business model on that. There's communities out for the money. I'm starting to see it's going to be probably an increased amount of grant. It's going to be. I don't know what they're getting now. These parents were walking, when it was. And I don't know if they're, to keep that piece for gang. I understand the problems. And seen problems in Anderson, families that don't even have records that they can. It's a big problem. And you have their space station there, that's a very lucrative job. For a lady ends up divorced or something that's got her kids. There is no other way. Clear, someone's farm. Big Hawkins is. The next farm over. Because we didn't do it. No, you're not, that well suffers the same issue.
So follow up my last question. So I see that the actual money the tax is not. What was the reason in the past? Because someone did total that was actually awarded. What is the reason? It's just not.
Yeah.
not
Lost
good.
about $7 million. Concern. And and then in 23, we funded $12,000. Very much.
Was it the limit was 24 that year, but you only funded 12?
No, the limit was 75.
Oh,
We just wanted the emergency
well, the
services.
history of why.
Yeah, and you can look at 22 grants, we capped everybody at 5,000. Who, and under the nonprofit,
I
due to limitation.
thank you. I was just trying to clarify what had happened since I wasn't.
Can you clarify a little bit about the state grant for the Kobe Road and when the estimated whether or not state funding will come in?
I wish I had a good time frame on that. That public assistance program is can have a long time.
I don't know, have you guys looked at the Denali Community Foundation that provides funding for communities and specifically for populations?
Through Denali Commission?
I believe so. Sorry, I'm stuck on it. The GPLC doesn't really fund this.
Yeah. Denali Commission, you know, you don't find a lot of road grants out there.
Some of them have road maintenance rates have been very difficult to find. And a lot of them that were open that. Like some. I'm definitely gonna look up. I'm just saying, there have been ones that. They.
Yeah.
Because one of their main points are access to infrastructure. Do you have road structure? Are you providing access? Do you need access? These are the questions that they ask when you hire. It's an option for another. And it's something that's not easy for small nonprofit to apply for, which is why GPLC is not. That's something that we're going. Or sorry.
But they're the organization who's carrying out that work.
Right, it's the challenging grant for a small nonprofit. But it's something.
Which is a responsibility we have not taken on.
Thank you. Any more public comment? Thank you for all the comments. It's good discussion. We'll move on to assembly review and award. Any comments or suggestions?
I'd like to reiterate my stance to fund bowling. I think it's very important that we fund the 75,000 for the learning center. I think that's got to be a number one priority. But on the other side of it, I really feel strongly we got to support not losing what's already been done to the Kobe Road project. The devastation of that fire is going to cause a lot of runoff, and all the hard work that went into getting to where they're at is going to go away if something isn't done. So I'd like us to find a way to support both.
Thank you.
Mr. Stenger, I mean, would you support, maybe moving 12,000 from one to the other, that fund half of the Kobe ask and reduce the DPLC amount by that much?
If there's a hard cap, then yes.
There's a hard cap.
Yeah.
Okay, then that's what I would do. I think, the DPLC is asking for 75, Kobe's asked for 24. If you brought them down an equal amount to reach that 75, percentage wise, I think that'd be fair. But I think the DPLC said that they had to have a minimum of 65 to meet their needs. And I think that's important that they get that. We are still looking at potentially getting money from the state. I know that they were talking about, forestry was talking about coming back out there and doing more work. So I think that has to be considered on the amount that Kobe's asking for.
So it's 65,000 and 10,000 worth then?
Yes. 65, yeah.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah, I think that's good, because I'm right there with Jeff. It needs some work, and like, I've been out there. You got to support that community, and I'm absolutely it's got to support the kids too. So I'm good with it.
My inclination would be more to stick with the original recommendation, but I could agree to the compromise.
Any other comments, suggestions?
Only that if the 65,000 for the Learning Center will meet the stated goal. I'm sure budgets will be razor thin, but if that will work for them, then I would support that compromise, yes.
All right, she's giving us a slight nod.
Yeah.
Am I not?
Is that just being sleepy?
It could be nodding off.
If there's no further conversation, I would move to.
Yes, I would move to make a motion to
Just do one.
preliminarily grant 65,000 to the Denali Preschool and Learning Center.
I'll second.
All right, it has been moved by Mr. Alexander to, and seconded to, preliminary award the Denali Preschool and Learning Center, the total of 65,000. Is there any objections to that? Seeing or hearing none? Count it.
I'd like to make another motion to preliminarily grant $24,000 to the Kobe Farm.
10,000.
I mean, sorry, 10,000 to the Kobe Farm community.
There's
Second that.
it has been moved by Mr. Alexander and seconded to preliminary award $10,000 to the Kobe Farm community. Is there anybody opposed to that one? Seeing nothing, hearing nothing, then we'll call that unanimous. Yes, so now we will move on to public comment.
Working together, gosh, I can't read my writing. Working together and our businesses, our schools, owning private property and good roads are an asset to Denali Borough.
So, George has been our contractor, but it's not like he's making a bunch of money. I don't think we could find anybody else to come out and do what him and his brother Larry do. And I've seen him put time in and not get paid for it. And my old equipment is, my grader's 10 years older than I am. He helps me with this stuff. And I really appreciate George Laird and Scott, the guy that helped him that first year. But you really do get a bang for the buck.
Any other public comment?
I thank everybody for their time and I feel we had a pretty good session.
Yes,
Mhm.
thank you.
And I thank the Borough Assembly listening to all this. It's very not a path and I'm glad they did. I feel it was it's fair to balance everything out. Thank you.
Thanks for supporting the VPLC project too. It's very important having that separate infant area and maybe entice some of us moms to go back to work a little bit because they're safe. It's designed specifically for infants to live in or to be safe in
Right.
and to live in.
Yeah.
Basically. So it's a really important project and I'm glad that Denali has a step part of supporting that project. Big project.
I also want to reiterate that about DPLC, just having been a parent who, because of the ratios, was turned away too. That is difficult. So I know that's very important also as a working parent, even with someone who has a person who's watching my children. You still do need that very often. So, and I also, road maintenance is very important. I think we're seeing that in this meeting in general. So that's.
The public comments? Mayor, do you have anything?
Yeah, thanks. We really valued these programs because so many community members parlay these dollars into so much a greater community benefit. And we're fortunate to be in a position where, yeah, we're gonna put into our 2024 budget. Gosh, it's gonna be over about $750,000 worth of grant funding that's going to go into the community, and it's not all going to go to the Healy area. There are a lot more nonprofits here. There aren't as many nonprofits up north because there's the city of Anderson, and who does things like the fire department and even the library, and so a few years back, we put in that municipal assistance portion of the grant program that wasn't discussed tonight, but will be in the budget and discussed during the budget time. And that's direct assistance to the city of Anderson to support their fire department and their library. And that's going to be recommended at $71,500. So I wanted to point that out as well.
Right, I was reading about that. And at least for me, for Anderson, quite appreciative.
So, yeah, we do look at it borough-wide.
For me, but, it's anything that helps, because running that ambulance is big money.
Yeah. So really, we're fortunate in so many ways. And I want to thank the good participation that we had this evening from applicants, from those of you parlaying these dollars into great community benefit, and to our assembly. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to assembly comments, and we'll start at this with CA with Mr. Canali.
Thank you, Talon. Well, I just want to reiterate Mayor Walker's comments about public participation. It was great to see everybody come out and represent their needs and interests, and do so in a very respectful manner. I think that's really important in this process. So again, thanks to all who showed up in person, those who zoomed in or maybe listening or watching, following along on YouTube. Appreciate that. Other than that, I just have a brief PSA. Burn season is just around the corner. April 1st, burn permits are required. I strongly urge everyone who has burning in their future to obtain a proper permit and follow the guidelines. We are certainly watchful for wildfire down here in the Cantwell area, given all the beetle-killed trees. So anything we can do as citizens to manage our burning responsibly may go a long way to help prevent a catastrophic fire down the road. So anyway, just want to make everybody aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alexander.
I also want to thank everybody for coming, and I think the discussions were really informative and helpful for us making these decisions. Without your participation, our choices wouldn't be as good. So very much appreciate everybody from showing up, putting up the time, and participating in their local government.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to thank everybody for working with me on chairing my first meeting like this. So thank you. And
the motions up.
Yeah. And for the participation, it really helps us to make a better educated decision than just reading over things. It makes it a lot more personal, and be able to feel like we're helping even more the nonprofits that come to us, and to be able to work out solutions with the communities and not just by ourselves really helps to make sure that we are hitting the mark in the right way. I know that there were some compromises tonight, and that is a good thing, that we were able to spread things out a little bit more than we might have without the participation. So I greatly appreciate that. And then for those that might not have been approved for their grant opportunities, it doesn't mean that we don't want the projects done. We just have to look at different ways of getting funding for the projects, and yeah, I hope we can help out however we can in helping with those opportunities. And then also we got pending stuff out there, so we have a lot to work on, and as assembly, some things that we have, some homework we get to do as well, which is good. We're looking at some of the code that we have for our grant applications. And thank you, everybody, for hanging in there. I know this is a pretty long meeting, but it was definitely worth the meeting because of the people we are going to be able to help and with these funds. So thank you. Jared?
Yeah. Thanks, everybody, that participated here tonight. Apologies for coming in late. And thanks a lot, Talon. Great job chairing the meeting. Lot to get through. But yeah, thanks to all the applicants. Such an inspiring group and awesome, to see at least through this format, all the work that's getting done, and feels good to be able to support that work. And I know, that big total of grant money that Mayor Walker, just pulled out, knowing how much farther that goes when it's leveraged with all the volunteerism and all the other effort that goes into all these projects and running everything is really awesome. And lets us have a pretty lean government here, and still see the public served, I think, really well. So it's really great. I do look forward to having conversations in the future, just knowing that road maintenance and infrastructure needs is a huge problem to tackle. It's a big thing that governments do all across the country, and it's not one that we've gotten into very far, but as we dip our toes in, water feels pretty cold, but the community needs to drive places and get things done. So, I mean, there's a never-ending job ahead of us to maintain that the dispersed infrastructure we have. Gravel's down deep. It's expensive to move all those things, are challenges, but look forward to working with everybody to make sure we can all get what we need. So anyway, great meeting, and thanks everybody.
And Mr. Stinger.
Hey, I just wanted to first apologize for being in and out. I got stuck up on Stampede trying to pull somebody out of the snowbank and ended up having to get pulled out by Coke Wallace. I want to extend my thanks to Coke. But it was a really good meeting. I really appreciated all the public input. Everybody's passionate about their nonprofits, and I dig that. I think that's pretty cool, and I wish we could do more, but we have limits. And I want to thank everybody's all the public comments and all the input. It was pretty sweet to hear all that and get that involvement. And I hope we helped everybody we could. I really appreciate being on the assembly, and Mayor doing a great job. The other assembly members, I can't say enough for everybody. And I feel like we did okay tonight. And reiterate, I think it was Mr. Canali said in a respectful manner, everybody was heard. So thanks a lot. Enjoyed it.
Thank you, Mr. Stinger. Mr. Hammond.
Okay. I wanted to thank everybody for showing up, and then everybody who actually filled out one of these grants, because this is all important stuff. This is all people wanting to help the community. Everything we dealt with tonight bettered the borough. So I can't say it's great. So I enjoyed being part of this, and whatever little part I played into sitting on this assembly to help folks out, I'm just proud to be here. But other than that, I think we got some things accomplished. It was long. I heard people's opinions. I think it's great, and I want to keep hearing more. Other than that, good night.
Thank you. And that moves us to our time and place of our next meeting, April 12th, 6 p.m. Regular meeting here in this office.
A Wednesday.
Yeah, so
Wednesday. Thank you.
Wednesday.
To adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
We are adjourned.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
That was good.
Yeah,